All right, everybody. Hey, we are back. 1 second here helps do it. All right, we're back for part two, or not day two, part two of day one PM section, basically getting into more of the finding notes aspect of what we're doing. Now, hopefully, y'all had a great thing. Is there any big nuggets that popped up from the AM session on things that you found valuable? What was any aha nuggets? I always like to ask that. Somebody asked me a question during the break that I wanted to bring up too. I didn't discuss. Somebody asked that I didn't discuss Distress Pro or Bank Prospector. That's a great service. Actually, friends with Brett Palumbo, who actually created that software. He sold the company off about a year or two ago to a couple different guys. It's a great service, great software. What I find that works better for me is there's so much information in that prospector that you can really do a deep dive and get lost in the weeds. I'm more of a, hey, let's blast it and see who responds back. Let's do to the masses. Let's see what comes back. And then also with Bauer Financial, you can kind of see who's in distress, and it can be a cheaper aspect. Yeah, Bauer Financial's quarterly report that you download is going to cost you about $300 to $400, varying on how you order it and what you want to order. That's thing, but that's cheaper than what Distress Pro is. Distress Pro is great, and you can run some scenarios to see that stuff. But I often know that a lot of people get bogged down on the massive information, where I'm a little bit more surgical. The less I know, the less I end up spending time doing such a deeper dive, when I can dive into pulling that same information, highlight my list, and then targeting and going that route. And then there's also some things to automate that I want to share with you guys here in a little bit to make it simple for you in your daily outreach. Okay. But once again, is there any aha nuggets, questions from the morning session about finding notes? One thing that you can do as well is when you go to your LinkedIn profile and put note investor, note buyer on your profile, the more people you're reaching out to, the more you're going to get responded. Like yesterday, I had a guy reach out to me. Hey, Scott, I see you're a note investor. I got some notes that came across your LinkedIn. Are you interested in looking at some stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'd be glad to look at some stuff. So you're going to get people that reach out to you. Joe says, free is good from your ideas. Okay, I'm glad that you like that, Joe. Who doesn't like free, right? Or cheaper. Don't get me wrong. Credit IQ is not cheap, but it is effective if you're going to go that route. You know what I mean? Distress Pro is not cheap, but it can be effective. You'll go that route. There are some things that you can update it or tweak it to get, because let's face it, people always ask me, well, Scott, how much money do I need to get started as a note investor? I need 50 grand. Do I need 100 grand? And the answer to that, no, you don't. You can do it without any money. It's just going to be a little harder aspect. You can have the free version of LinkedIn. You don't need you can go without a CRM. That makes it more difficult. So there is some marketing costs along the way. Truly, probably the first year, you're probably going to spend somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 in marketing costs. And that depends on any type of software you're pulling, any type of like CRM. Can cost you $200 to $300 a month, depending on what you're using. That's what we use. Actually, our email costs us about $6,000 a year, because we have such a huge database. But that huge database produces results, it produces income that offset it. So that's the thing you look at. What's great is my better half, Steph, is always good about going back. Hey, what are you paying for this? Are you using this? Is it effective? This has been useful? If you're not using it, let's get rid of it. And so that's one thing that you can find yourself doing, adding a lot of things, but if you don't use something, then you're just donating. Like we use Keep as our CM, but for like 2 years, we donated to Keep monthly because we didn't effectively use it in the proper ways. Okay. So going to your LinkedIn and posting note investor, note buyer, it's two of the things that you should be doing immediately with your profile. All right, got a question here. So Joe says, I have had a subscription from Distress Pro, but I don't like the idea of making calls. And I used to do telemarketing, so the idea of sending emails is great and seeing who replies. Yeah, look, making phone calls can be difficult. It can be intimidating. I'm going to be broadcasting me making phone calls to bank asset managers over the next 4 weeks. Okay. We have a thing that we've done every couple of years called the Banking Blitzkrieg, where we get about 25 to 50 individuals together and we do call blitzes. 50 to 100 phone calls a week is what we look for. And then if you make it through the 4 weeks, you get the combined list. The key is there is a cost on the front end. I charge $5.99 for this because I'm going to be providing lists. And if you flake off, then I got to go find somebody else, right? So if you go through the full 4 weeks making phone calls and turn in your lists every week, then at the end of it, not only do you get the combined list, you also get a refund on the $5.99 cost, which is kind of a cool thing. You know what I mean? But now you have this huge database, and we've gotten anywhere from 1,500 contacts to 3,000 contacts, depending on how many people make it through to the final 4 week. And there's weekly calls. That's something that, if you're interested in, we can talk about later on. And I get calling banks. It seems like it can be very intimidating. What it comes down to more so is patience and making and getting transferred and waiting on hold and taking the no's. And I always found that if you're contacting banks, whether it's emailing or calling, there's better times at work. And I'll get to that in a second. But it's a numbers game. You'll hear me say this again. 80% of sales comes after the 5th contact. So when I get a list of bank asset managers, what I try to do is that 3-touch approach relatively quickly. Like send an email, find them on LinkedIn, and then follow up with a phone call. All right? Find them on LinkedIn, send a message, try to send an email, follow up with a phone call, and get in the habit of touching base. Because here's the thing. If you're contacting asset managers, you're going to make a lot of phone calls, make a lot of emails. Those that follow up the most are going to be the most efficient. Now, the American Marketing Association says that less than 48% of people or salespeople follow up with a phone call or follow up a second time. Okay. And that's what you have to realize when you start realizing this is why I like to break down and kind of reverse engineer the numbers, right? If you want to close on 20 notes, you need to make 200 offers, right? If you want to make 100 banking contacts, you probably need to call 1,000 banks, okay, and follow up. Me contacting Capital One, it took me 70 phone calls over 3 weeks. Now, how many people would make 70 phone calls in 3 weeks, trying to track down? I can't tell you how many times I got transferred or sent to a call center. It was not the right person. So I finally got the right person on the line, with Amy Grasso out of New York. And the first note I flipped from there was 35 grand, right? So every no I technically got on that search to find the right department was worth $500. And that's what I say, is that you have to realize that every no you get is worth $500 to $1,000. Now that relationship with Capital One is $1 million relationship. Between what we bought and what we sold and what we kept and what we wholesaled off, was over $1 million relationship. That's the thing to keep in mind, is it's worth it. It took me, when I was first calling banks and asset managers, I set us out to do this. And it's different now than when I first started, okay? When I first started, I really didn't have a LinkedIn profile. I would just pull a list of banks that were going out of business and calling to see if they're still had anybody there. And we were doing it on a Thursday. I started at noon. It was kind of slow in the mortgage business this time. We were basically getting ready to what the hell am I going to do? Because the mortgage business is drying up. Like a lot of loan officers this time around, they're struggling. So I just started picking up phone and practicing what I had learned from Bob Leonetti and Jamie Kayla. And I remember it got later in the day. My buddy Boyd was like, "Who are you talking to in there?" And I role played. I spoke, I went through my scripts a little bit by myself and role played a little bit. That's always been a great thing to get better at making phone calls. So I started calling, leaving messages, or phones disconnected, no longer in service. And I was getting ready to give up, and I got to 50. I was like, I set myself a goal of 50. Well, I got through 50 and I didn't have anybody. It's like, well, it was like 3 o'clock. I was like, I might as well make a few more phone calls. So there it was at 4 o'clock. I make my 53rd phone call, and it was calling Aegis Mortgage. It was a mortgage company out of Houston, and the phone picked up, and this lady goes, "Hello, this is Cam. What can I help you with?" I'm like, is this Aegis Mortgage? Yes, it is. What can I help you with? Well, my name is Scott Carson. I'm a note buyer. I'm contacting to see if you guys have any notes that you're looking to sell. She started laughing. I said, was that funny? She's like, no, it is, because I do have a tape, and once I sell this tape, I'm out of a business. I'm out of a job. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She goes, yeah, there's only two people left here, the president and me. And I said, well, can we make it? Let's see if we can make it a good day. So she sent me a list of $5 million worth of notes in Houston, and we ended up flipping it for 5 points. And so it's $250,000 is the profits made off of that from basically dealing with a couple people. I made 1 point. I was one cog and trying to make, that was my first really deal to get closed. It was a no deal. But $50K for 50 phone calls, it took about 30 days to get done. So that's when I was like, oh, I like it. So basically every no I got was worth just under $1,000. And then another major like with Capital One, it was basically $500. I knew that I could make it happen. Okay. Now there's been times when I've made phone calls to bigger banks like Citibank, and finally got a hold of the right asset manager there, and we never closed anything with Citibank because we were too small. But the point that I'm making is 99.5% of most real estate investors aren't doing shit. Okay. They're the ones that go to the local real estate clubs. They may go to a conference, but they're not doing anything. They're not making offers. They're not reaching out to banks. They're not sending an email blast out to their database. They're not spending any time on LinkedIn adding. They might be posting something, but they're not actively adding to their database or their Rolodex, as we like to say, their contact list. And that's the big thing that you will find for me is, look, this stuff, you have to keep growing your database and get in the habit of saying next, next, next. If a deal doesn't pan out, next. If a tape doesn't have anything on it that's worthwhile, next. That's what it comes down to. But here's the thing. If you're in that 0.5% where you're posting something, you're talking about deals, you're sharing a note tape, a map or a picture of a property or something, you're getting into rare air where you stand out from the crowd in a good way. You just have to grow your crowd so they see what you're doing. Like with LinkedIn, one of the biggest tools that we have used to grow LinkedIn is this service called Octopus CRM. Now, let me share this with you, okay? It's not a free service, but it's one of the most valuable 20 or 30 bucks you'll spend a month, okay? And this is it's a Chrome plugin. It works with LinkedIn, okay? Now, what it is, like I said, is basically it will help you scrub off of LinkedIn. So let me give you an example. Let me see here. So let me give you an example. So if we went back earlier, and remember we did a search for, this is a way to automate your outreach. So let's special asset managers. Let's just special asset manager. Remember we did a list for that, search for that earlier. And if we go here and we click on just people, special asset manager, it showed 154,000 results, right? 154,000. Okay. So the great thing about Octopus is once you sign up for it, is that you can create lists. Now you should see, I want to make sure that you guys can see this little box from Octopus pop up. Okay. Once you signed up for it. Now I don't have an affiliate. I probably should as much as I talk about it. But there's you can create all sorts of campaigns. And what you can do is import. There we go. I got to change this. So there you go. This box pops up here. So what you do is you basically import lists. You create lists in LinkedIn and import. So like I have note investors. I've got a whole caboodle of them. So let's go to special asset managers. I've already got the special asset managers. It reads the list that I have kind of pulled up here. And what I want to do is I want to pull over 1,000. You can pull over 1,000 profiles at a time in Octopus. Now, it's not going to give you their email address, but what it does, it pulls over their profiles into Octopus, and then it allows you to automate. So we're going to hit send to CRM. And what it's going to do is going to going over to my search here, and it's scrubbing the information real fast. It's pulling over to the link that their first name, last names, and their information, company name, job title, and pulling that into Octopus. And once that's done, I can then go into the Octopus CRM and automate the connection requests. Okay. Now, this I'm not joking. This one tool helped me grow from 6,000 to roughly right at 30,000 connections. Now, what I did is you saw there was a bunch of different lists I have. So I would rotate my lists throughout the week. So like Monday, it would probably Monday wasn't a very good day to reach people, and that's one of the things I'm going to go through here in a second. Like, you don't want to reach out to asset managers. Yes, you can send out an email to them. It's probably not going to be read. The best time to send an email is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays after 10 a.m. Don't send it Friday because it's going to get bogged down as they're leaving the office. Don't send it Monday because they're often busy. It's not going to get to it. But sending an email, and this is really good for any of your lists out there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best time to send an email. Okay. Now, if I'm going to make phone calls and follow up with asset managers, I'm going to call on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between 10 and noon their time and 2 and 5 their time. All right. And that's what I'm going to do most of my outreaches, either emails or phone calls. Now, LinkedIn, you can do it anytime. That's the great thing about LinkedIn. You can set this up, send out the invitation requests, and when they get into it, they get into it. Some are online, some are not. Okay. So now that I've pulled over, I'm going to click on CRM here, and CRM is going to go over here and tell me, okay, Scott, well done. 665 out of the 1,000 profiles your requests have been transferred to the campaign. 302 of the profiles have been skipped because I've already got 139 I've reached out to. 161 have already connected with. I should have gone there and hit second degree connections to narrow it up. And then 2 profiles are currently reviewing your invitation. Well, that's okay. So we'll hit okay now. But now the beautiful thing is I can set up these connection request notes. So I can go over here and go to pick up my list, special asset manager. Okay, and that popped up my merch. Hell, I want to see if you're the right person at blank company who handles note sales. I'd love to connect to see what you have on your desk that you're looking to get rid of. I've been buying for 15 plus years. And that leaves me 38 characters. Now I'm going to probably shrink that down some. All right. What's it? Let's see here. Why is it? Connection request note. Okay. Now the great thing is I have that set up. These are brand new. But you can see these are processed a year ago through this list. Like I haven't been able to use Octopus for a while because I exceeded 30,000 connections. But you guys can. So I go over and hit launch for 50 and hit launch. Oh, no, I don't want to connect by email. There we go. I can show you a different thing. So yeah, now I can go back in here. That's what it was. I'm just going to get rid of I've been buying for 15 years. So it leaves me a few names to reach out to people. So hi, hello, first name. I want to see if you're the right person. I'd love to connect to see what you have on your desk that you're looking to get rid of this quarter. Perfect. Now I'm going to hit launch. Now what it's going to do is it's going to start sending out invitation requests to the first 50. That's a beautiful thing. Now, as long as I haven't maxed out my daily connection request that LinkedIn has in place for my profile, I have a paid profile, so I have a few more than normally. If you have a free profile, it may limit you to 20 a day or 100 a week. If you've got a newer LinkedIn profile, it's going to limit you probably to 100 a week. Okay. But now what I did though for 4 years is I would, every time I log on my computer, this was the first thing that I would do. Send a connection request on Octopus. I'd send it, then I'd go do something. I'd log in on my computer, show up at the office when I didn't work from home, and I start the question. Okay. Yes, TA. Yes, I'm recording this to publish to my channel later. Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, this works really well. I could go do something else. I could walk away. I could go pull up an email. I could start checking my emails while this is working, and that way you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay. And that's the beautiful thing about this is this doesn't have to be as stressful as making phone calls, 50 phone calls or 50 individual email requests. It's literally doing it all in the background for you. Okay. And when you max out your daily allotment, it'll pop up and say, hey, you've maxed out your weekly allotment. Then you just got to wait till Monday rolls around and do it again, or your daily allotment and go do it 24 hours from now. So the best thing to do this is get in the habit of doing this about the same time every day. Okay. It'll vary a little bit, but this is one thing. And like I said, I would have lists of special asset managers, second and market managers, whole loan traders, note investors, real estate investors, Georgia, podcast hosts, real estate podcasts. I would create all these lists And then I would just start that process. I would just start every day. Monday would reach out to maybe note investors, Tuesday, special asset managers, Wednesday, secondary marketing, Thursday, whole loan traders, Friday, it might be something else. Okay. And that's the whole point, is that it became an autopilot for the most part. Okay. Now, if you max out your individual connections, because here's the thing, LinkedIn will allow you to have a maximum of 2,500 invites sent out. You can go in and do a mass deletion. So like 2,500 invites, if you're doing 50 a day, that's 50 days worth. Well, if people aren't going to connect with you in the first 30 days, I don't need those invitation requests. So you can actually go mass or bulk delete older invites, so it frees up your maximum invite amount, which is really good. And that's one thing it does in seconds. First, you go in there and delete them individually. Third thing, if you do max out your week or your month, Octopus has this feature which you can actually go in and send. It will go in there and pull the profiles and go review the profiles to see if there's an email address publicly, because LinkedIn, some people will publicize their email address, others won't publicize their email address. So I can actually send invite requests direct to their email. It just says it's just a connection request. It's not a customized one like we've been sending here, but it will still send out connection requests to people in my list if they've got an email attached to it, which is, it's nice. It's still a great way to expand if you've kind of maxed out your week. Okay. Questions about Octopus? I think you can do do a pay in full for the month, pay in full for the year, or do month to month. I recommend just do the month to month. There's times, especially going on vacation, and others that you can actually pause it, which is what I've done. We'll pause it because I'm basically capped out, so I can't use it on a monthly basis. So I'll pause my subscription or just do month to month, and then sign back up for it for a class, or when I get down to about 1,000 where people have unsubscribed or people are no longer connected to me or other things, I can log back in and use it for a week or two to get back up to 30,000 and then go a different route. Does that make sense, everybody? But while we're sitting here talking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 invitation requests have gone out, and I haven't had to do a thing. I don't get what you mean by this, Joe. Does it have an unsubscribe, or if the email had a bad forwarding email? What do you mean unsubscribe? Do you have a LinkedIn profile, Joe? It's not sending an email like an email through a CRM. What it's doing is sending a connection request. So it's sending a connection request in LinkedIn to these people. So if they don't accept my request, then they just don't accept it. And if they haven't accepted my request in 30 days, I just go mass delete all those invitation requests out of their email. Okay. You're not asking them to sign up for anything. You're just asking them to connect on LinkedIn. So this is solely working through LinkedIn. It's not going through like a CRM like Keep or anything like that. Okay. Good. That's good to hear. So I wonder if I can pull up my LinkedIn. So if my LinkedIn is here, okay, there. So I just clicked on my LinkedIn messaging. Yeah, it's not going through. So it's literally doing it in the background. My network. Let's see if anybody of these. My notifications. Oh, Alan Jones. Let's just see. Those 31 minutes ago. I wonder if those are asset managers. Look at that. Chief Credit Risk Officer at Legence Bank. Viewed 1 hour ago. Let's see the message. Oh, pending request. Got any notes? Hi, Alan. I saw that you were reviewing my connection request. I wanted to see if you had any notes that you were looking to sell off of your portfolio. It's in. And that's, I may have sent an invite request to him and he reviewed it, but he didn't accept it. Well, that's okay. I'll send him a direct message. And that's what it all comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is just this connect of going back and forth and putting these systems in place. Where is Octopus? There it is. It's processing profiles, which is great. So it's going on there, and that's the thing is you could do this for private investors. We've done this by picking a specific state. Like if you're, I'll give you an example. Like Derek is out of Indianapolis. He could go and connect with, do a search for real estate investors, Indianapolis, pull the list of 1,000 investors over and send out emails or messages or connection requests to those people. That's one thing I did when I'm buying an area. Like one thing I did, I pulled Note Investors Texas and started sending out a bunch of invites to local folks in Texas. And what I would say is like, listen, I'm an investor buying distressed real estate in Texas. Love to connect with other investors. What are you buying? I'm not trying to pitch them on anything. I know if you've got a LinkedIn profile, you're tired of being pitched to death. You know what I mean? So we don't want that. It's just, but I like to generally connect. So I'm going to stop it there. So it's sent out there. So a couple of these, maybe they changed, their company was not found. That's okay. Now there is this connect by email thing that you can send out as well too, where it's just going to scrub these people. So let's do 100. It's like 500 a month. And I'm going to launch this. Now it's going to go read these profiles to see if they have an email, and it's just going to send a generic LinkedIn connection request through LinkedIn. It's going to go into their email. So that's the nice thing, but it's not going to be customized. Just say connection request by Scott Carson, looking to connect with you. Okay. And that's going to go on and work that route. Okay. Now let's go back here. Let's talk about some things that you want to say and don't want to say. Okay. You're only, these people we're talking about here, special assets, secondary marketing, chief credit risk officer, they're in charge of the mortgages, the note sales. Okay. That's all you're going to say. Do not say REO. REO is a 4-letter word. Okay. REO stands for real estate owned. That's when they've taken the property back. And then now they're trying just to list it and sell it that way. Okay. There's no note anymore once it's gone to foreclosure. Yeah. There's no note really attached to it once they've accepted a deed in lieu and the borrower signed the property over and walked away. Okay. So what we're targeting when we contact them is it's a very similar thing. Hey, my name is Scott Carson. I'm an active note investor. I'm looking to see if you're the right person that handles your note sales. We're buying for our own portfolio. And now the question, you're going to leave a lot of voice messages. So when I say that, I make sure and say my phone number twice, very clear. You're going to get some phone call backs, not as much as you like. And then also, it's important to have an email address that's easy to understand too. Okay. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind too is you do not want to use a Gmail, a Yahoo, an AOL email address. You want to have a professional email address. You also need a website. Okay. LinkedIn will work for a little while, but you need at some point to have some sort of website that shows some credibility. And credibility doesn't mean anything bad. We just did a episode on Monday night with Mac McMeans about creating websites. That's what he does. He creates websites for real estate investors. He's done for some of our students, done a really good job. Check it out. But the thing is that people are going to ask you, okay, what are you looking for? Even though you said, well, here's the thing. I'm looking for residential notes, non-performing residential notes, usually $1 million under, depending on what parts of the country you're buying. I'll buy just about anywhere except like New York and New Jersey for the most part. Because you'll have people ask you, oh, do you buy New York, New Jersey right now? And I'm like, no, if that's all you have, not what I'm interested in. Okay. But I buy in most parts of the country. All right. They might ask you, who do you service with? And then you'll say, well, I have a couple different servicers. I use Madison. I've used Madison, Essen, Allied, Land Home. There's a variety of different servicers. You're never going to have a bank. Most of the time, about 99% of the time, they're never going to ask you for proof of funds. Okay. Which is different than if you're buying real estate. Most of they're going to ask you for proof of funds, right? Make sure you can close. We don't have that happen in the note space. What happens is if you're actually talking to a bank, talking about buying $1 million of real estate, stuff like that, they assume as long as you don't shoot yourself in the foot, Most of them assume you belong. Most of them assume that you know what the hell you're talking about. So if they were asked how much in private capital you have, here's what I say. So look, we have a network of private investors that we use. We have anywhere from 1 million to 5 million in private capital at any given time. And we can go higher than that too if we need to. Okay. Most of your one-off deals are going to close in 30 days or less. That's on the residential side. Commercial is going to take longer, 90 days or longer for the most part. Okay. But the great thing is if they ask what you're looking for, well, I'm looking for residential under 1 million. Don't just say non-judicial states. Remember, we have 2 different types of states with judicial foreclosures, which I have to go through the foreclosure process through the court systems, and those can take 6 months plus. And then you have the faster and the non-judicial, which is basically about 120 months or less. You know, Texas, which is the fastest when it comes to foreclosure, at 21 days. Georgia's 30 days. Tennessee, North Carolina is about 120, 90 to 120 days. Missouri's 90 days. Okay. So don't just say non-judicial. Say I buy in most of the major markets. That's what we're doing. Okay. If you just want to buy in Indianapolis, don't say I just buy in Indianapolis. Don't do that. Just get the whole list sent to you. The whole idea of getting a list is it's just not for you. I mean, yes, you'd like to buy for your own portfolio, but if they have something on there that doesn't match your portfolio, guess what? There probably is somebody else that's buying that stuff that you could probably make some money either wholesaling it to or flipping it to or building a relationship with. Okay. So keep that in mind. Don't just get so bogged down. I'm only buying for my own portfolio. No, there's other people out there you can still make money off of. Hopefully you get a tape in and you reach out to me and say, hey, I got a tape in. You know, there's something I want to buy, but there's a whole lot more than what I'm looking at, than what I want to buy that I can look at. And I can help you move that stuff. Okay. I'll buy it for my own portfolio. That's the biggest thing. This whole reason I started teaching years ago was I knew I couldn't go look at it all, but I also knew that there was other people out there who were getting tapes that I wasn't seeing. So it's a great way to leverage everybody else's work. You know, you're not alone. It's not just you and your network. It's you and your network is your true buyers and sellers aspect of it. So leverage your network, leverage who you have. You know, Note Nation Facebook group's not the biggest Facebook group, but it's got about 1,000 people. And I mean, I know Facebook groups are not so active these days, either LinkedIn groups, but they're still there for you to leverage. Use them, connect with people. All right. Send messages out to people. That's the most important thing that you can do on a regular basis. Get beyond yourself and, oh, woe is me. He who has the larger network actually wins, is what it comes down to. All right. And that's really, so same thing. I'm buying in most major markets. We're buying from our own portfolio. If they ask who you've bought from before, you know, if you answer the servicing company side, you could say we've bought through a variety of different entities before. You have a few that may ask for references and say, well, great, if you want references, I'll be glad to provide them. I can email them over to you. You can use me as a reference. We've bought before. Okay. That you're going to want to have an LLC set up, not just a trust, but an LLC here in the United States or a S Corp, something set up entity wise. Okay. And, you know, they'll probably make you fill out a non-disclosure agreement. They'll probably make you fill out a Patriot Act form, which is going to ask for your tax ID number for your LLC, when it was incorporated, that kind of stuff. That's normal, very normal to fill that out on the front end, especially if you're dealing with Wall Street or dealing with banks. They're very secure about what they provide. Okay. The whole goal here is just, if they say, no, I don't have anything this time, well, great. If you don't have anything, can I follow up with you on a regular basis? Do you ever have anything across your books? You know, can I just drop you an email once a month just to touch base with you to see what you have on your books, or at some point, if something comes across your desk, make you think of me? And you know what they're going to say? Sure, go ahead. That's fine. Simple enough to send an email out. That's the whole point. Now, if you are calling and pick up the phone call, like I said, call between 10 and noon and 2 and 5 their time, not noon time, because you're going to get a lot of voice messages. They're out to lunch. Don't call on Fridays. Is when you contact it, like I said, leave your voice message, you talk to people, and always ask, you get a gatekeeper, all right? Or you get transferred to somebody. Hey, great, thank you for, you know, can I drop you an email, add you to my list, can I just touch base with you? What's the best email? I don't want to bother you too much with phone call. Can I just drop you an email and you get to it when you get to it? If you get somebody who's like a gatekeeper and an assistant, same thing. Listen, I know he or she may be busy. I don't want to bother them. Would you be willing to provide their email or your email and I can just drop you what we're looking for from, once a month basis. You follow up with you once a month. And that's usually going to be the easiest thing. And they'll give you the phone number or email stuff and go from there. And always too, if you're about to get transferred, ask them, say, okay, before you transfer me, can you give me that number just in case we get disconnected? That way I can follow up directly and I don't have to go through being transferred 4 or 5 times. And when we make phone calls, just keep track of it. Okay. Some of these lists like Land Guide and the Mortgage Bankers list, you've got phone numbers and emails. When you upload it to like a CRM, like MailChimp or Keep, you can see when you send an email, when you followed up with them last. You can actually set up automatic email reminders or responders. What I like doing is I go and write my asset manager emails 6 months at a time. So like I just finished up with the June one that went out a week and a half ago, and the follow-up one went out. So like when I'm sending out a mass email through a CRM, I keep it very simple, very clean. Okay. I might have my logo on there. Okay. I don't put my social media graphics when I'm emailing asset managers. So here's the thing, banks and lenders often have really specific spam filters. So the more you put in there and outside links, the less you want to do. You might want to put one link like the book a meeting on your calendar or a link to your LinkedIn. Okay. But the idea here is just, hey, what do you have in your book? Same thing like we've been posting. Hey, my name is Scott Carson. I've been buying notes for 15 years, or I've been an active real estate investor for 5 years, looking for non-performing or performing notes that you're looking to sell off your books. Love to talk with you. Let's schedule a phone call. Something simple like that. Okay. I got a question here from Joe. Joe asks, any suggestion on the LLC or is LegalZoom okay? Because LLC set up in California is expensive. I hate this state for its fees for entrepreneurs. Yeah, you're in California. You're just going to pay $800 a year. That's good. That's for it's called your fair weather tax. Okay. Your sunshine tax for living in California, Joe. I mean, you could go through like a Laughlin and Associates. I wouldn't use LegalZoom. Call Laughlin Associates. They do a better job on the asset protection side and the entity creation side. And you have somebody you can talk to and ask questions pretty easily. That's who we use, Laughlin Associates. They'll actually keep track of our monthly, not statements, but monthly like filings and documents they use to create being an entrepreneur. You're going to pay, and then they also, since it's Nevada Corp, what do you call it? No serving orders. But here's the thing: if you've got a California address of anywhere, you're going to get charged that $800 fee because of the state. That's the communist state of California. So sorry to hear that, but that's just what you're going to do. They've got somebody in California that goes and looks at all the different states filings. If they find anybody with a California address, that you get charged that $800 fee, just as a pain in the ass. Somebody's got to pay for Governor Newsom's winery. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to pay for Pelosi's hair coloring. All right. But the whole point of, and here's the magical formula. Okay. When you get an email list of asset managers, mortgage bankers, servicers, whatever it might be, you send an email out. Okay. You send it out on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. That's not it. Okay. What you do is with that email that goes out in 48 hours, you can probably have about a 20% open rate. Okay. Well, that 20% that open the email, you want to tag them or separate them as your hot list. They've opened it, right? You're going to resend the exact same email, but you're going to send it to those that didn't open it. Well, Scott, they didn't open it the first time around. Yeah, you don't know why they didn't open it. Maybe they've been busy. Maybe it hit they didn't see it. Resend the exact same email, but to only the list that didn't open this time. Now, if you don't have a CRM, that's going to be really hard to do. Okay. If you got one of these cheap free ones, it's going to be really hard to do to segment your list off of those that didn't open. Okay. But we send it to those that didn't open. So now you probably have another 5 to 10% that open it the second time around. But we send the first one on Tuesday morning. We send it this one Thursday afternoon. Okay. Now between those two, you probably got 20 to 30% of the list opened it. We send a third email the following Tuesday afternoon. And you'll probably get somewhere between another 1 to 4% of those. Now, if you've got 1,000 emails of asset managers, guess what? That's 250 to 300 contacts. That's good. That's a good start. That's the next phase to take in contacting them on LinkedIn or picking up the phone and dialing for dollars. Hey, I just sent you an email. Just want to follow up. Now, those that didn't open, you still send them the same thing again next month. Those that did open, that top 30%, you're taking those as your hot list. You may not need to send them the generic email, but as you're adding new asset managers each month, add them to your database. Hey, just wanted to touch base, reach out to you, see what you have on your books. Okay. So that over time, because you're going to have people that leave the bank, and one of the most important things you can do is when you send a mass email, you're going to get these out of office responses, or so-and-so no longer works here, contact this person. Those are gold. Take the opportunity to grab those emails and context. They say, oh, contact so-and-so, or this person is no longer here, now contact this. Take those time to update your database and make a note of who you used to contact. Because if you pick up the phone and call Gene, and Gene's the new guy, you're going to say, well, I've talked with Scott in the past, or I talked with Joe in the past. So that puts the conversation at ease a lot of it. And you may say it's been a while. Say it's been a while, okay? They may say, well, we don't have a non-disclosure on file. So, well, it's been a while since I talked. But I'm willing to sign another one to see what you have available. Those are simple things. Yes, I know making phone calls is a difficult thing. But if you can knock out 40 to 50 phone calls in a couple hours, you can do this. Everybody can do this and should do this at least once or twice, especially to your list that's opening your emails. And if anybody responds, definitely pick up the phone and give them a phone call. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns about that? Now, one thing that's can be a little faux pas, depending on how you look at it, is you'll get broker. There are brokers out there that will move stuff, joker brokers. Okay. You're going to want every list you get in, you're going to want to save any type of non-disclosure you get. You want to save that tape and create a file for all the loan docs, or all the loan tapes you get in by like the service. So I save one from like Lehman, save one from US Bank, listen from Revolve, SN Servicing, and then each month you save another file folder so you can see where that tape is coming from. Because here's what's going to happen. People are going to get lists and then blast them all out. You may get a list 6 months from now that was sent out originally, a year ago. You may be all excited about it because you're new. You ain't seen a tape yet. But it may be an old tape. Somebody's just throwing shit against the wall, trying to get it to stick. Okay? Don't fall into that. Look at when the tape, the great thing about getting a spreadsheet in from somebody is you can see the info of the spreadsheet when the spreadsheet was created and who is the author. Now, if it's a newly created spreadsheet, great. If the servicing information on it, and I'll go through a little bit of this later today for you, is relatively in the last 90 days, okay. If it's beyond 90 days, don't waste your time with it because it's outdated info, and that tape may not be real anymore. It may have been through a daisy chain. Now, what's a daisy chain? Well, daisy chain is pretty simple. So you got, say, me that has notes available for sale. Let's say Derek reaches out to me and he gets my list of notes from me. Okay. Well, Derek's looking at the list and he doesn't have any money and he doesn't want to buy anything, but he knows Joe has some money and Joe's buying notes. So what does he do? Maybe I told Derek that I'm willing to let it go, say, for 60 cents on the dollar of legal or whatever. So Derek sends it to Joe and says, oh, it's going to be 63 plus 3 points to me. Or to him. 60, if I want 60, maybe he wants 63. So Joe's looking at it. Oh, there's not really anything on it. I don't know if I want to buy these, but I knew John's looking for notes, right? So Joe sends it to John, says, okay. And John's like, well, what's this cost? Well, this was 66 now. Remember, I wanted 60. Now Derek's added 3 points to it for 63. And Joe's added it for another 3 points at 66 now. So John's like, okay, maybe. And John's like, I don't know about this. Well, then John, guess what he does? He knows that I'm looking for notes. So who's he send the list to? He sends it to me. It's my own list. Okay? It's my own damn list that's come back to me. But now, instead of being at 60, it's at 69. Okay? That's called a daisy chain. Don't get in a daisy chain. And here's another thing. Oh, these are some of my biggest pet peeves in the industry. If you get a list in and it's a sanitized list. Now, what does sanitized list mean? It means that you get the spreadsheet with all the information on the notes, except the addresses have been removed. So maybe you have just city, state, zip code. Well, I can't make a damn offer. Even though you tell me what the value is, I'm not going to make an offer on it if I don't know the true address. Okay. So you'll get joker brokers that will send these lists out, remove the address to call it sanitized until you proof up with a letter of intent and proof of funds. No bank is going to ask for proof of funds. No traders are going to ask for proof of funds on the front end side. Never ever send a proof of funds to somebody unless you're actually getting ready to close on them directly. Okay. Now, like if you were buying a note for me, I would say, these are my notes I'm selling. I need to make sure that you've got the funds to close. That's different. But I'm not going to ask for you if John's going to look at some notes. I'm not going to ask for John. I need to see a proof of funds before I ever give you a list. It never happens. The only time it happens is when you have joker brokers who are trying to use your proof of funds to get approved other places, and you don't want to do that. So no, if somebody says I need a letter of intent and proof of funds on the front end, just move on. Say, nope, I don't need to provide proof of funds. Never had to do it before. Not going to start doing it now. You're a joker broker. Another thing that you will have happen to you, okay, is as you start putting note investor and you start getting tapes, people reach out to you. You have notes for sale. Well, here's the thing. Just because you get notes in doesn't mean you're a waiter. Like I've had students like, oh, I got a guy that's interested in 3 notes on this list. I'm going to sell it to him. You're supposed to be buying for your own portfolio. If you've got the list from me, it's not for you to blast out and send to somebody else, okay? If I'm giving you a list, it's for you to buy for your own portfolio, not to blast it out, to blast it out, to blast it out. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You just violated my non-disclosure agreement. Now you're risking me getting blacklisted. I'm about to blacklist your ass, okay? That means you don't get anything. That means you're on a bad side of the list. You don't want that, okay? If somebody says they're note buyers, that's great. What are you looking for? I'm not going to send you the list. So send me anything you got. No. Give me specifics. Because you got to realize your relationship. So now when I get like a list in, like if I get 188 notes in, I still know that Jonathan down in New Orleans is looking for something in Louisiana, and I know Jonathan for years. I will send Jonathan the 4 or 5 in Louisiana because I know him. I trust him. We've got a relationship together. He's bought stuff from me. I bought stuff from him. Okay. When that happens, if Jonathan wants to bid on those, then what I would do is go back to say, hey, there's nothing on here that I wanted to bid on, but I've got a client that wants to bid on these 4. And then what I would do is turn the relationship over to Jonathan, and Jonathan's going to pay me a wholesaling fee or just a bird dog fee for making the introduction of connection. And that connection is going to be good for, I may have signed a fee agreement for 12 months. Okay. We'll get into wholesaling more so on Sunday as we go through the exit strategy. I'm not going to go into wholesaling right now. Okay. Questions though. I mean, the whole thing is just to get the tape, get your NDA signed, get a tape in, start looking at stuff, start reaching out to people, get that process going. I mean, it's Friday, so it's not the best time to reach out to Ask Manager. When I used to teach this class in person, it'd be a 4-day class, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Thursday afternoons, we were calling banks. And people were like, you would always see people squirm. But when we called, we'd always get somebody on the phone, and it's great to talk. Now, we do have a 4-hour video of me calling banks, a couple of videos of me calling banks for 4 to 5 hours. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can often see me making phone calls to bank and Ask Managers and see that it's not nearly so difficult as you would think it to be. Okay. Any questions about what we've discussed so far before we dive into some more stuff? So good question. Joe asked the question, is an LOI how you bid for the notes, not a PSA, and are they examples? Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're going to buy a commercial note, a banker lender will ask for a letter of intent at that point when you make your offering. Okay. It's going to outline what you need. There's a couple examples of that in the manual. If you're buying a residential note, a one-off note from a note trader, you're not going to fill out an LOI. You're just going to send back the spreadsheet with your bids because they're going to want to see loan level pricing. So I'll give you an example. So we went through and broke down a tape of 188. Well, I wanted to make offers on 10. So all I did is it deleted everything else off except for those 10 that I was going to make an offer on. And then I inserted a column at the very front in column A with my offers, labeled that column Scott Carson's offers. And then I emailed that as an attachment. Don't insert it into the email because it's such a long ass spreadsheet. It's going to shrink down and people can't read it. So always attach it and say, hey, here's my offering. Because here's the thing. Most residential note traders, they're going to have a specific policy of where they go. So they're going to take bids for a week, and then they're going to give you 3 weeks for due diligence and then another week or 2 for closing. Okay. And that can be adjusted a little bit depending on if they get you all the necessary due diligence stuff and depending on what's going on, funding, holidays, and stuff like that. All right. you're going to go through that process. You're not going to fill out a letter of intent. Your letter of intent is the email. Hey, here's the offers I'm making. Okay, on these. And then they're going to come back and accept them, counter them, or decline them. Okay. If they counter them, you can counter back, or you can accept them and go from there. Like these 10 notes we were doing due diligence on, they didn't accept any of my initial offers, but they countered them all. Well, I was out of town traveling at the time, and I thought they were a little high, but I went ahead and accepted their offers, their counters to me, and knew that I would look at stuff through due diligence, hoping that the values and numbers still worked out in my favor. And I accepted them. Well, as I'm going through due diligence, I find out, especially in these notes were in Florida, that they said they were in the foreclosure process. Well, they weren't in the foreclosure process. They were just starting the first legal aspect of it. Well, that's a big difference in Florida, where it's about a year-long foreclosure process. It's different if you're in 12 months in versus starting, right? So, then we basically just broke. I said, listen, I can't take, based on my numbers, I can't afford to buy these at what price you want for them. Okay. Joe, are you planning on making offers in commercial notes? With residential, it's going to be pretty common that you're going to, and I'll go through the due diligence aspect a little bit later tomorrow. So like you're always going to ask for a copy of the collateral file, a scanned copy. You're not going to get the hard copy. Scanned copy of the collateral file, servicing notes, full updated payoff, legal status. You're going to check taxes. You're going to pay for a broker price opinion. Those are things they'll go through your due diligence. Now, the commercial aspect, yeah, you need to outline how long you need for, like, I'm going to need 90 days for due diligence, and then 30 days for closing after that. But the same thing, it's just, you're just going to list the documents, which is pretty common in a residential. Okay. You don't close until you got a copy of the collateral file to look at. If somebody wants you to close before looking at any collateral files, you don't do it, because it's a sure sign that something's wrong. Okay. Right. So here, okay. So on commercial, you're going to have more expenses on the side. Yeah, there's an LOI that outlines you're going to need all these things, and it's going to depend on what type of asset class is going to depend on what kind of due diligence you ask for, right? I mean, buying a gas station, you're going to need environmentals and EPA and all that stuff versus just a straight up duplex or triplex is be a little bit different. You know what I mean? So if you like what asset class are you looking towards, Joe? And I can be more specific on that. So if you're looking like at apartments, then you need to take an apartment investing class. Okay. So then if you've never taken a multifamily class, go pay to take a multifamily class on what kind of due diligence, because that's the thing you have to evaluate. What's the numbers? What's the operating? You need to know those numbers so that if you buy the note, if it makes sense, does it make sense to buy the note at price if you take over management? Okay. Same thing. If you're going to be buying notes on self-storage, you need to take a self-storage class. If you're going to be buying stuff on industrial, you need to take a self-storage. If you're going to be buying on retail. Commercial, you got to understand that asset. You can't just be a single family investor and expect to buy an apartment complex note. You can get trouble for that. Okay. When I was buying those apartments from Capital One, I had already taken an apartment class. I was part of a commercial mastermind group that I really bounced the ideas. When I got the numbers in, we looked at it and it made sense to go through that stuff because we were able to get the information. But if they didn't have rent rolls, I still had to go out and figure out how to determine the rent rolls if it made sense. If they didn't have copy of the leases, I had to try to find leases. You get what I'm saying? So that's the thing you got to look at. Residential, it's pretty easy. You're going to look at pull a BPO, the value. You're going to do title work, and you look at the collateral file. Then you're going to evaluate the borrower based on what you can find online. Okay. So it's different when you're looking at due diligence on single family homes versus it is looking at multifamily. Yes, multifamily is a residential loan, but it's a commercial loan. So you understand that you have to do that. I've had classes with. Okay, so here let me give you due diligence is much more in depth. Exactly. Here's the thing: I would not trust the word Grant Cardone says, and I will say that. Okay, I wouldn't trust a single word that he says. Okay, because here's the thing: Grant will find deals, and then he basically equity strips before his fund buys it. So if he's buying it at $5 million and there's $1 million in equity there, they'll pull $1 million off as a wholesale fee and sell it to the fund at $6 million. Plus, then you're paying for his airfare, his flights. No, I wouldn't buy at all. Don't trust a single word that Grant Cardone is. Okay. Sue Nelson is good. Okay. Dave Lindahl, I bought a lot of foreclosed apartment complexes that were once Dave Lindahl loans years ago. Okay. So yeah, it is much more in depth. If it's a pain, then don't be invested in that asset class. Okay. Sue's is phenomenal. Sue Nelson, known her for years. Great gal. She knows her stuff. And yes, it might be a pain, but that's how you don't make mistakes. That's how you learn. Okay. She is awesome and just absolutely great. She's a friend of mine too. I mean, she's also a very prolific downhill snow skier, if you didn't know this. Okay. She's basically retired now to the point. If I was looking at multifamily stuff, oh my God, it's hard to say. Corey Peterson with Kahuna is a buddy of mine out of where is it? Scottsdale, Arizona, Phoenix. What's the guy out of Dallas? I can't think what his name is. Corey's good. Corey's phenomenal. Corey's got a big heart. He's good. No, the guy in Dallas is kind of douchey too. It's all about him, and he doesn't invest outside of Dallas. I don't know anyway, but look here, talk to people. Lance is out of Houston. Yeah, Houston's not bad. Houston's being hit hard though. That's the thing about multifamily right now is a lot of it's being hit pretty heavily. I just got asked to be on a podcast actually right before we got started. Back up, a buddy of mine wants to come and talk about the distressed apartment market in Houston or in the loan resets and refinancing. Guys, a lot of that stuff. So anyway, back to the point I'm trying to make here. Brad Sumrock, the guy in Dallas, not cheap, but he only invests in the Dallas market, and you got to be careful. Every market's a little bit different about it. So get to know your market on that aspect. Okay. I wouldn't grant, Ron LeGrand, who I traveled for 4 years as Bob and Jimmy worked in, and I traveled on Ron. Ron's great residential, not good on commercial. Okay. Ron lost his ass on some commercial stuff years ago. So anyway, going back here, just to find somebody that's doing it right now, being conservative. Brett Robertson does, I think, some multifamily stuff. Mike Allstott does, Mike Olier is actually not Allstott, does hotels and does some hotel conversion stuff that might be worth looking at too. But here's the thing, you got to get educated. If you haven't bought one, you start small and learn how the due diligence aspect is. So, my good buddy, Ron Cleef might be pretty good. Never attended his stuff, but I've got one of my coaching students, Garrison Gilbert, does a lot with him. And Garrison learned a note business and marketing from me. So that's the multifamily mastermind. You might check that out. Garrison's good. Garrison Gilbert, I think you might be teaching a little bit more. So what he's doing. So Garrison Gilbert does a lot. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to get at, ladies and gentlemen, is if you're going to be diving into specific asset classes besides residential, you got to learn that business. I'm not going to sit here and teach you due diligence on an apartment complex. I have my own aspect of it, but that's not my niche. All right. When I look at apartment complex, I'm running my own financials. I'm looking at stuff like I'll give you an example. We posted a deal just before we came back from the break about this apartment complex in Houston that's just in a distress state. It's at 93% occupancy. It's only got a 0.63 DSCR, which is not good. It should be double that, like one and a quarter. So the bank is at the loan matured in June. And so it's in special servicing right now. The lender's working with the borrower to try to get them back on track or do an extension of some sort. Well, knowing the DSCR is so low and they're at a higher vacancy rate, it means you got to really look at, are rents way underdone or the expenses killing them? Those are the two biggest things when it comes to it. Expenses too high, salaries too high, rents too low. What's going on if they're not good? They're the seven. Do they offer some stuff up to get people leased up that are way below market? There's a whole variety of different things to do that. You got to know those things looking at it. You got to go walk it. I mean, I just walked a 600 unit on Tuesday here in Austin that's going to foreclosure market next month. I'm not going to buy it, but I still walked it to take a look at it because it was here in Austin. I mean, literally about a mile from my house here. So get in the habit. It's good to understand those asset classes. Find somebody who's buying those asset classes and who's been doing it, not just somebody who's brand new, but buying somebody who's bought it that you like and trust, and sit down with them. Say, hey, I've got some deals. Would you be willing to sit down with me and go through this and see if it makes sense? and help me evaluate it. And you'd be surprised that some of them are looking for deals that you never know. You're gonna have to go through a lot of those commercial deals to find something that makes sense, especially in today's market, that you can actually buy. A lot of times these banks are not going to take a discount on the note. They're just going to go ahead and foreclose because they have to, because there may be liens above and beyond in junior lien positions that they have to go through the foreclosure to wipe out, or they want too much for the note. If there is some equity, it just doesn't make any sense to buy it at par. Okay, great. Let's take a little break, everybody. Be right back. Let's take a quick little 5-minute bio break. All right, while we get, I'm going to pull up a tape and kind of walk you through what a tape is, what you're actually looking for, a residential tape for you for the most part. Now, but I did want to share something with you that in the process of us going through the last half hour, Octopus has basically reached out to 40% of my list that we had them upload there. So it's been doing that all in the process of reaching out to people and sending out invite requests. So it's kind of nice to do that while I'm not working, right? While I'm doing something else. But anyway, let's pull this up. So what I wanted to go through, this is a tape from a few months back. Okay, so when you get a tape or an Excel sheet like this, it's going to be, it could be about 15 cells. It could be 40 cells wide, okay? 40 columns wide. What you have to do, the first thing that I do, it's very important, making sure you guys can see my, hang on here, making sure you guys, okay, good, you can see it. That's good. Come on. There we go. All right. Is when I get a tape in, especially if it's not from somebody that I know or somebody that I've traded with before, it's from an email submission versus being a trader that I've asked for. Somebody reaches out to me, I got a tape available for you or notes available for sale. The first thing I do is I go over and hit the file tab, and I go down to the info tab. Okay. And the info tab, hopefully you can see this. Yeah. You can see when this was created. So this was last modified July of last year. Yeah, it's a tape that's old. Okay. It was created June 14th. So if it was July of last year and this was created in June, I'll say it was just created. That's a good thing, relatively good. Okay. I can also see that Emma Brookman sent it to me, who she's the author. She basically created a spreadsheet. That's who I was talking to. That's a good thing at the asset manager list. Okay. Last modified by Scott Carson because I saved it. Okay. So that's the thing to look at, is that's the info. Now that you've got to probably have a current episode or current subscription of LinkedIn to do that. But that will save you a lot of time. It's like I got stuff, it was a year old. Like if I got this tape now, I can see it's a year old. It's not worth me pursuing, right? So let's go into, so let me give you an example here and walk you through the tape. Usually what's going to be the very first column is going to be the loan number, servicing loan number. Okay. And that's going to be there. This column, Scott Carson bids, is a column I inserted when I made some offers. It's not usually, you'll have the name of the servicer. There's usually going to be a delinquent status telling you kind of about where they're in the process. That says basically, hang on here, we've got something. Hang on here. Let me. That's what I thought. Okay, so we want to view. Freeze, unfreeze panes. Okay, I'm going to go over here now. Freeze panes. That's better. Okay. So often there may be delinquent status. So if it says active foreclosure, that's supposed to be an active foreclosure, not starting foreclosure. Big difference. Okay. If it's blank, it probably hasn't started foreclosure. Okay. If it says loan mod or forbearance agreement, or maybe even a column that says 30 to 90 days, or 0 to 30 days, or 60, 30 to 60, or 60 to 90 days, breaking it on 120 days plus. Okay. Tells you the due date. P&I stands for principal and interest constant. The taxes and insurance constant. The payment history cut off. So they cut this off as of May 31st is when they pulled this report off their master servicing. Okay. Any deferred balance, balance, the back end of the amount when it was modified. The UPB stands for unpaid principal balance. The estimated legal balance is going to be your UPB plus back payments added to it, any late fees estimated. Okay. Now the equity above legal balance, that's in a column that I inserted trying to figure out if there's any equity above the value, or the value is higher than what's owed, or if there's negative equity where they owe more than the property, which is the formula that I did. So last payment date, you can see some of these have payments that are old, some are relatively new. The last payment bucket, remember we talked about no payments, 120 plus days, 0 to 30 days. Okay. The interest rate of the mortgage, if it modification flag, if it was ever modified, the date that it was modified, lien type first or second position, you only want to deal with first. term of the loan, if it's a 20-year, 30-year, 852 term. Okay, what the hell? That's a long ass time. That means I'm not paying anything for that. Okay. Stick to 30 days. I mean, 30 year, I was having a conversation with another big time investor out of New York. And him and I were talking, we've been friends for a while. And he's sold everything, got the heck out of New York State and buying in other areas. And he was talking about, he goes, Scott, I really expect to see more 40 and 50-year mortgages being originated for affordability. I'm like, yeah, that's what's going to end up having to happen. Is you're going to need to have a 40-year mortgage or a 50-year mortgage for a first-time home buyer to be able to afford anything, to get the payment down to a point. So I only want to do a 30-year or under mortgages, and I preferably only want to buy a mortgage in the first half of their term, not the second half. Like if it's a 30-year term, I want to buy in the first 15 where there's at least preferably 20 years or more left in the payments, because that first 7-10 years, it's mostly interest that's getting paid. That principal is not being written down a lot. Okay. You start getting into the second half, it's more principal, less interest, and it's less profitable long run. Okay. Current maturity date. When it was original maturity date, if there was a BK with bankruptcy, filed bankruptcy of any sort, yes or no, the date for that. I'm sorry, this is the foreclosure start date that they started the foreclosure process, active foreclosure. FICO stands for the credit score, if it's available or missing. The borrower's last name, borrower's first name. This is very important to have, so you can go check the county records and see if the name matches up. You want to make sure that the name matches up as the borrower with the property owner. If the name's changed, the last name can change, like if a woman gets married or something like that, you know what I'm saying? But if the name's changed completely or it's gone from a person to an LLC, you got to double check it hadn't been a tax sale or a deed transfer. Now, if it's a tax sale, that's a big red flag because the mortgage could have been wiped out. You got to double check that. If it's just a deed sale, you can see what happened with that by check the title search. Whose name is it in now? Is there a quick claim deed? And then basically just going to have to alert you that when you're foreclosing, that it's alerted to that entity that you're foreclosing. Okay. When the original loan was originated, the original loan amount, same thing, original P&I, first payment that was due, then you get into the property addresses, city, state, zip, property code, occupancy. Is it occupied, unknown, owner occ, tenant occupied, BK case number. If it was BK filing type, that means bankruptcy type 7 or 13. If it was dismissed or discharged when it was filed, BPO stands for broker price opinion. The BPO date, the broker price opinion date when it was run. You can see these are all a couple years old or at least a year old, so you would need to pull your own numbers. They were current back a year ago, but not now. They're not current. Okay. And then I got into some other stuff like legal balance, estimated equity. If I were making an offer at 80%, what's that number look like? And then if I foreclose, it was minus. So I ran some formulas there. We'll get to that later. Okay. So that's the thing is you're going to look at everything on here. Now, not every tape is going to have everything. Sometimes you'll have more. Sometimes you'll have 12 months of payment history attached to this. Okay. Sometimes you'll have a lot of columns for different things on the note side that you don't need. Most of these are going to be 30-year fixed nows or 7-year or some sort. They're not going to have a lot of arms, but occasionally you'll have an arm. Sometimes you'll have mortgage insurance columns on there if there's mortgage insurance available on some of these. Okay. Sometimes you'll have the co-borrower name as well. Okay. You won't always get the FICO. Sometimes you'll have taxes owed on stuff like that. Okay. So that's kind of what a tape is going to look like. The hardest thing, though, sometimes you'll have servicing number, then you'll have the loan number for the owner, is you can't match up every spreadsheet I get has almost been different almost all the time. It might be 80% similar, but it's different. So you just got to get used to working in Excel and running numbers and formulas and stuff like that off it. Okay. And the big thing when you get a spreadsheet like this, great. If there's stuff you don't like this stuff in New York, New Jersey, I get rid of that. If there's it didn't show you here, but property type. Is it land? Is it a single family? Is it a townhome? Is it a condo? Is it a mobile home on land? There's things you want to get rid of, but this is really what you're looking for, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And one of the most important things you can do is share when you're working on something. Hey, I got a tape in of 136 notes. Like you guys all could literally go on there right now onto your LinkedIn and socials and say, hey, I'm reviewing a tape of 100 or 274 notes, which we are. Okay. Or the 129 that we downloaded from PaperStack, you could say you're looking at that stuff. The reason you want to go share that stuff, it just passes the eye test. If an asset manager goes to your LinkedIn profile and doesn't see shit, okay, sees no activity, no postings, nothing, how active an investor are you? Okay. And part of what I do is just sharing something on a daily basis. It may be an article that something about investing, maybe a deal I'm working on. It could be maybe it's what we've been doing a lot lately, short little 1-minute videos about specific assets that we see going to the foreclosure auction, commercial assets, because that's leading to A, getting some bigger buyers reaching out to us. B, we're also evaluating some of those deals. And C, guess what? It leads to money coming in. People that don't have the money to buy one of those, but they want to be involved in a deal. Okay. So that's part of your marketing aspect, is not only to pass the smell test for asset managers when they're checking out your profile, but it also attracts other things. You've heard honey attracts better bees, right? It's easier to attract honey or bees with honey than vinegar, right? Well, if you don't have anything, it's because you have vinegar, nothing, or you're just being nasty and negative. Save that stuff for somewhere else. Okay. Go share stuff. Go share articles. If you're looking for places to get articles, there's a couple of free places you can go. Like you could go to Housing Wire. And look at some of the different topics they have on there. Okay. Talk about the mortgage rate. Talk about something on there. Well, my connections don't have anything to do with real estate. I have family. Well, guess what? Is your family going to invest with you? Is your family doing what you want to do? No, go attract what you want to attract. You have to surround yourself with people, like-minded individuals. Okay. So go start connecting with asset managers. Go start connecting. Like there's a guy that I follow that I get a lot of these deals from that I see pop up that help me research it, because he's paying for a expensive membership. He's really sharing his assets. Like, well, that's great. Thank you for doing the work for me. So like he shares, like, oh, he puts this one today. Lander foreclosure on Oakland's office complex. Okay. This is an apartment complex in Houston. This is a office to multifamily conversion in Cleveland. This is in DC. Okay. You know, he shares a lot of good stuff. Well, I like watching it. Now, he may not have the biggest following. He's got a few. He's got 8,000 followers, but it's adding to my thing. All right. So that's the thing, is that when asset managers look at my portfolio, guess what? I want them to realize this guy knows what the hell he's talking about, or he's sharing information. He must know he's speaking our language. Okay. That's the beautiful thing. All right. Speaking our language. Now, besides Housing Wire, there's also dsnews.com. This is probably one of my favorites. Oh, it's now Mortgage Paint. Yeah. This just changed. I forgot that. It changed like 2 weeks ago. Now it's you can go up here and click on some of these different things, like market trends are always good, industry news, lending originations. They used to have foreclosure and special servicing. Yeah, but there's good articles on the stuff. That's the whole point. And just look at default servicing. Maybe that will work. Here's a good one that just came out yesterday or 2 days ago. Total commercial multifamily mortgage outstanding climbs 1%. That's a good article. You know, there you go. Oh, I forgot another website you could go to, be like crixie.com. This is another thing that kind of tracks mortgage notes for sale. I meant completely about it's a commercial property, but you can often find, like, they've got data you can pull for like owner finance commercial properties or stuff like that to find. We were looking at buying stuff on owner financing. I think it's great to buy an owner finance if you're buying for stuff. But this is a great thing to look at. You can find all sorts of stuff. Yeah, see notes for sale. Let's see here. Pool of performing second, those have been on there forever. Pool of second perform, yeah, that's been there forever. So we had some offer. We've still got some offers out and some stuff that we're looking to buy with owner financing. And literally with a note sale, here you go. Not New York performing note pool. 50, I don't want to buy performing seconds. Yeah, they've been on there for a while because that's overpriced right now with the market being like it is. Yeah, nope. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. All right. So, but anyway, going back here, I forgot to mention that earlier. Going back to your spreadsheet, this is what you're looking at. Solid ground. Now, here's the thing. If, like I said, there's 234, where do you begin? Don't have a meltdown. I've had events where we got in a tape of 400, 500 notes, and I saw people like start melting down. Like, oh my God, where do I start at first? When you slice and dice, or when you get in a tape from a seller, look at, is it in this area you want to own? And the most important thing I tell you is you're not going to buy in all 50 states. Okay. You're not going to buy in all 50 states. Why is that? Because some of this stuff's going to be too expensive. You're not going to like the legal side of it. You don't want to own real estate. You don't want to be a lender. You want to buy in states that are primarily lender or property owner friendly. Okay. Landlord and lender friendly. That means you're not going to buy in New York or New Jersey because it takes forever to foreclose there. You're probably not going to buy in California. Sorry, Joe. Okay. Just because it's so difficult there. If you find something in San Diego where you live, that's a different story. Okay. But I wouldn't buy anything in LA. I wouldn't buy anything in San Francisco right now because those values are dropping. It's not going to be the California, San Andreas fault. It's going to be it's going to be the mortgage default. It's going to be the market defaults that causes California to break off. Okay. You're not going to buy a lot I wouldn't buy a lot in Illinois or specifically Crook County. You see a lot of stuff in Chicago, but I wouldn't buy a lot of stuff in Chicago. It's just difficult to foreclose there. You're not going to buy in Kentucky. You're not going to buy in Oregon or Washington State because those are communist states basically as well, socialist states that you're just not going to buy anything in. Okay. Yeah, if it's 80% off, it might be worthwhile at that point, but in some cases, it still wouldn't be worth it for the most part. So the whole thing here is just go ahead and start, filter your tape. Get rid of the states you don't want to buy in. Get rid of low balances. Okay. We've got a whole due diligence sheet. It should be in your manual that we'll go through later on, kind of helping you eliminate it, make the process simpler for you. Okay. Like low balance stuff, under $25,000 owed, under $25,000 value, rural areas. That's the big thing, is start looking at where these are at. Now, there's a great tool that I like using that helps you map things. Let me pull this up. That's not it. I just had it open here a second ago. Okay, here we go. All right. It's a service called Batch Geo. And what Batch Geo does, let me pull this back up and share my screen. It's a free service. It's a free mapping tool where you can bulk map. Okay. And basically, I think you drop up to 250 addresses with other information in their lines. And basically, you need, when you copy paste them, make sure your headers are in there. So we copied it in there. I'm hit set options. Yeah, just property address, single color, hit make map. Just like that, it mapped it. Blah, blah, blah. Save map. Now it's going to email me the map, which is good. Takes her a second to come in. There it is. And now I have my map. Now, it copied over whatever I copied in. All right. So all this down below here is whatever I copied over. So I can copy the whole spreadsheet and dump it in here and had all this information down at the bottom. Okay. And you can see down here where I typed in blah, blah, blah. I could at least, hey, I could put in information. This is a list of notes that I'm in the process of evaluating or buying. Personally, I just like pulling a map. This is really what we use to map the locations of, or to get a good map of all the properties we're looking at when we do a tape, and then we say this is a screenshot, and that's what creates the image. But isn't that kind of cool? Yeah, it is. The manual will be in our down, whatever. Joe, Joe, you would have gotten an email when you remember we dealt with you getting the email back and forth. This should be back in that original email with the link to the manual. Okay. Your email bounced back again this morning when I tried to send it as a group, which is weird. Okay. But the original email I sent you, the manual will be there. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is you see here, this makes you look pretty, it makes it pretty exciting. If you're a mortgage broker, a realtor, another investor, wouldn't you make sense for you if you're trying to walk in and raise capital for you to map all the assets you've done and then share it with your group when you're raising capital? Like we got my buddy in Houston over there, Jason. He does a lot in Houston. I said, well, in Houston Gulf Coast, and said, well, why don't you map all your all your address? You got to keep a spreadsheet of every property ever bought. I said, well, then map it. And then when you go in and meet with a new group, well, here's a map of all the properties we've bought. And you can change the color code. Like if I put one column that performing and non-performing, I could edit the blue be performing, red be non-performing. You know what I'm saying? And tweaked it up. So we had another realtor, Catherine, out of Illinois, Chicago. She bought like $37 million in real estate, or bought and sold. I said, well, why don't you just do map? And then make it part of your presentation when you walk in. Hey, we know Chicago. Here's a map of every property we've helped, buy or sell or lease in the last 5-10 years. And it's a great thing for her. So this is a tool that I love using. It's free to use, up to $250 if you want to do some stuff. Beyond that, you can pay for it. But I like this because it makes it simple, makes it easy. And you do a screen share, it's easy to share. Hey, I'm working on a tape of 60, working on a tape of 12 notes, and go from there. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? Good. Glad that you like that. It's such a good cheap tool to use. All right. So another thing I want to go through was a different tape that came in. This was emailed me in a Google Sheets. And so I wanted to just kind of compare it for you guys. So this is smaller tape. So this one you can see it's labeled differently. But this is a list of owner finance notes that came in. Okay. And the name is the address, the closing date. You can see these all closed relatively recently. December, January, February, September last year, September, March of this year. The loan amounts, what's that say? Oh, this is view only, which is aggravating. I hate that. I guess funded at closing. Is it current? The maturity dates, the rate, their loan numbers, the exit strategies, the refinance lost. I don't know what refinance lost means. Refinance sell, other sell. Purchase price as is value. So I got this from a guy who saw my stuff. So I know he's a broker. So they tell you the loan to value. Don't know what LTA at RV. Maybe that's loan to appraised value, or loan to after repair value. That's probably what it is. Down payment completed. Credit score, city, straight, zip, county, And what's it say? Construction reserve. So yeah, these were rehab loans, I guess, that the guy technically owner financed. Well, I'm not really interested in that stuff. Okay. I mean, I might buy it, but I don't like newly originated. If somebody's going to newly originate owner finance note, yeah, see, these are short term loans. They mature January 1st of this year or next year. I don't, they're short term construction loans. Okay, great. I'm not going to pay par for these. Par stands for they want full UPB. I'm not going to pay that. But here's one thing you could do. If these were longer loans instead of 1 year terms, you could go over, if you didn't want to buy them, you could always go over and get a bid and broker them. And the company that probably gives you the best offers on an owner finance note is First National Acceptance Corporation. Okay. They're out of, is it Lansing, Michigan? They have a satellite office here in Austin, but they're a bank. They're actually a bank out of Michigan that buys a lot of owner finance notes. They'll buy a lot of stuff. Now they've got kind of a basic structure what they're looking for. They call it the 10-10-10 basically. They're looking for about a 10% interest rate, 10% down, in about a 10-year term. They'll do a 30-year term with like a 10-year balloon, but they'll look at longer than stuff like that. So that's roughly they're looking for 10% interest rate, 10% down, and roughly about at least 10-year balloon if they can get it. If not, then they'll look at the things. But they'll not only give you a bid on the whole note, they'll also give you a bid on the partials. Now, I'm not going to go through partials. Usually it's might be 24 to 50 months partials. You're only going to get a partial on a owner finance note. You're not going to buy a partial on a bank note. I don't buy many owner finance notes. We have bought some in the past, but I just get a bigger bang for my buck because I often find that owner finance notes, the sellers can't take as big a discount as I need, especially if it's non-performing. Also, the paper is not written the same. I mean, if I'm buying an institutional note from a bank or a hedge fund or a mortgage company, the collateral is all going to look the same. The loan docs are all going to look the same. Their due diligence can be the same. The servicing companies will be the same. With owner finance notes, it may not be the same. It may not have a servicing company. It may not be a clear collection of payments. There may not be a third party involved that's collecting that stuff. There's statements you don't know. So it's okay if you want to buy some owner finance notes and get them at a price. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I don't chase them. I get better deals going after portfolios of bank notes and making that work for me and finding more deals that way. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've been around for a while. We refer a lot of people to them. Donna Bauer, I know Donna for years. Donna's basically, retired out of Cincinnati. She, likes to target owner finance or did like to target owner finance notes. But the idea of having to mail out that much mail, 50 to 100 pieces to get 1 to 4 phone calls is just not, it's not a smart use of time. For me, that's just a waste of time, waste of money. Deal with banks, still smart in the 21st century. Scotty's giving her all she's got to beam you into the 21st century when it comes to marketing for deals. Okay. This is a thing. What I've done, it's also funny. Some of our students have started doing this too. Is they set up their website and they put sell your note. And basically it's like, this is Larry Hoffman, one of our coaching students. He just created a job form where people basically fill out the exact same form that FNAC does. So like FNAC has a fast quote. You just click this information, fill this information in, and attach a copy of the mortgage, copy of the note, and they get via bid back in 24 to 48 business hours. And I was like, well, just, once you just set this up on your website, people can not only collect all the information you need to make an offer for yourself, but it's also in the same form that you could submit the bid to FNAC and you could hire a VA to do that for you. He's like, oh, that's brilliant. And I think he's sold a couple. We sold, I don't know. We've brokered, I don't know, 10 to 15 owner finance notes over time that they've accepted that we were able to get the seller to come back to. Here's the biggest thing that I dislike. Is oftentimes if somebody's reaching out to you to sell their owner finance note, they've had it for a while, they've probably sent it to 4 or 5 people. So one thing I always ask them is the note on paper stack? If it is, it's not worth, I'm not going to bid on it. Just go direct to FNAC. Because if somebody's already sent it to FNAC, and FNAC will tell me, oh, we've already received that one. Oh, we've already received that one. We've already seen it from 3 people. It's not worth me wasting my time submitting an offer. Okay. I'm just not going to do that. And one of the things too, when you get a tape in, It's always important to ask who has seen the tape. So, like when somebody sends me a note from Owner who's seen this list? Have you blasted this out? Have you talked to a bunch of people? Oh yeah, we talked to a lot of people. Great, then I'm not interested in making an offer on it. Well, why not? I said, because you've already watered down. If I'm going to buy something, I'm not going to compete against unknowns. Okay. If you want me to buy it, I'll give you a solid offer and then I'll go from there. But I'm not going to sit here and bid on stuff and on another finance on a one-off. Don't waste my time for the most part. Either A, you're going to say yes or no, and we're going to go that happy route. Otherwise, go somewhere else. Okay. When I get a tape in, the thing important too is asking how many people have seen it. You know, how's it been out for a while? You know, there's a difference in 100 people versus 5 people have seen it. Okay. When are bids due? That's an important thing. When are bids due and what's pricing? What are you looking for in pricing? Or we say, what kind of color are you looking for? Okay. And those are important questions to ask. If somebody reaches out to you, tape, well, how long has it been out? What's the cut? You know, what kind of discount? Those are things I'm going to ask you. Send me, and if you don't know it, I'm say, well, go back. If it's a sanitized tape where the address are removed, I'm not going to waste my time. All right. I know it's exciting to tape in, but like I had somebody out of California send me a tape and they didn't even have addresses. They just didn't even say city, state, just said California. I'm like, I'm not freaking wasting my time. Well, I'm going to need you to sign an NDA. I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time with an NDA. If you're sending me the tape to bid, then let me bid it. Don't waste my time asking me to sign a damn non-disclosure agreement. Okay. I'm not going to go blast it out and try to sell it out from underneath you. No. Just some people are stupid. Okay. It literally is. There's common sense is not common, which as much as we would like it to be, right, everybody? Oh, good times. Now, some states, when we get into it, we hadn't talked about this. Part of the reason you want your notes to be with a third-party servicer is the licensing aspect of things. Okay. You don't need a license in every state to buy notes. Like Texas, you don't need a note to buy or license to buy in Texas. But here's the thing. You don't need a servicer to collect loans here in Texas, but it's good to have that third-party service. It's good to pay that 15 or 25 bucks for them to collect payments, just so it's through a third party that's collecting all the payments and keeping it neat. Makes you sane. Your time is worth more than you trying to collect and scan and put all that stuff in. Okay. So in most of the states, but I'd say 80% of the states, 75 or 80, if you have a licensed servicer, a servicer who's licensed in a state to be a debt collector, that suffices. You don't have to be licensed. There are a few states with exceptions, like Georgia. If you're buying in Georgia, they want you to be a licensed mortgage broker. Or if you're buying in Georgia, if you're using your self-directed IRA, that's the exception. Okay. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. Okay. It used to be, oh, you buy Ford. No. They want you to be licensed, okay, in Georgia. Now, the way to get around it is just partnering up with somebody who's already licensed in Georgia as a mortgage broker and just running through their entity and give them a chunk of the profits, okay? Question, some states also require to be licensed. Yes, so like some states, like in Ohio, wants you to, if you're buying seconds, wants you to be a licensed, have a license with them. Oregon, Washington State wants you to be a licensed separate, if a separate debt collector's license in those states, that's different from just your servicing license. Okay. California, if you're buying California notes and selling to California folks, they want you to have a separate license in California. Okay. Is it Massachusetts wants you to be a licensed licensed mortgage broker now too? Kentucky wants you to have, if you're an individual buying notes, have a bond, a $500,000 bond. If it's a company, $1 million bond, they can get expensive to buy in Kentucky. It's just not worth it. I'd rather just buy across the state in Ohio and have the licensed servicer who's licensed as a debt collector in that state solve that. Okay. Illinois wants you to be a licensed debt collector individually besides just having your servicing company, but it's not a big pain in the ass in Illinois. Okay. Like I said, most of the states that we buy in, if you got a servicing company that's licensed to collect debt in that state, it's completely fine. You can cover most of it. Most of the states that we're going to, the fair exception would be like I said, Georgia, Illinois. I mean, some states are changing stuff up a little bit from time to time, but for the most part, you're going to be fine that way. Ask your servicing company, do you need a license in that state? New York, New Jersey is not worth getting that license in there is way too expensive, then it's way too expensive. Okay. But most of the states that we talk about that you see most of your stuff in, you're going to be fine. Just don't lack on having it. Like I had a guy reached out to me yesterday who's in Wisconsin, and he was like, I just buy Wisconsin. I don't like Wisconsin because the property taxes through the roof. I said, okay, who's your servicer? He goes, well, I have my attorney handle everything. So, well, is your service, is your attorney, what kind of attorney is? Oh, he's my friend. I said, well, you better make sure he's got his debt collection licenses there to solve that. Because if you don't, you can get in trouble. You do need to have a debt collector's license in Wisconsin. You need to have a servicer in Wisconsin. If you're not doing that thing, you face some issues. Okay. Some things to do. You keep, when you get a tape in, you can't go out and ask the borrower, hey, do you want to modify or reinstate? That's a big violation of fair debt collection practices. Okay. Part of the reason you have a servicer is that they've gone through that fair debt collection practices licensing, or they're cleared of all that stuff, trained in that stuff, so you can't get in trouble. Okay. And this guy's like, oh yeah, I go out and negotiate with them ahead of time. I'm like, well, that's not a good thing. If the bank will allow you to do that, okay, great. But most banks are going to allow you to do that. And the way I got from it, he wasn't asking, he was just going and doing it. And I was like, well, that's not good. That's a violation, and it's no. Now, can you drive by a property and take some photos driving by? Yes, you can. Would you go knock on the door? Hey, I need to see inside the property. You can't do that in the note business. Now, the exception to that is if a property is listed for sale. If it's on the MLS and listed for sale, could you have your realtor go by? Could you go by and ask like you're trying to buy the property and take interior photos without selling anything? Yes, you can do that. We'll get into a couple scenarios like that on Sunday as we go through more of the exit strategies. Okay, let's take a quick little break here, and we'll come right back. So let's take a 7-minute break. Okay. All right, everybody, we're back. Question here from Joe. It says, so Scott, you said that in some states, if you buy for your own portfolio, you might need to be licensed in this state, either as an MLO, real estate agent, etc. No, you need to be a licensed debt collector. Now, in Georgia, they want you to be a licensed mortgage broker, no matter if you're buying notes in Georgia, whether it's your own portfolio or anybody else, you know, brokering stuff like that. They want you to be a licensed mortgage broker in there. The exception there is if you use your self-directed IRA. That's just Georgia alone. Okay. Like I said, most of the states, California, Oregon, Washington, those states want you to have a separate license. It's not worth buying there because it's a pain in the ass. Okay. But majority of where you're buying, where you're gonna be finding deals, you're gonna be okay just having a servicer that's licensed in that neck of the woods. Okay. Now, one thing you can look for, there's other see, okay, here, whoop, this just popped up. So I want to make sure and share this with you. So this just popped up from Octopus. Hey, Excessive, we noticed you processed a big number of profiles on LinkedIn today. We highly recommend you make a break for the next 24 hours by being flagged by LinkedIn for excessive activity. Okay, sure, done. All right, we'll shut it down for the day and we'll move on. Okay. So that's one thing, but it processed 50 there while I was doing something else, right? So I want to share with you a tape of notes that you guys can actually bid on. These are notes that are actually available for you from one of our students. She's had these notes for a while. She's cashing out of the portfolio and looking to pay back her investors on this list. And they're performing notes, basically. Hang on here. Come on. I'm trying to clean it up so it's easy to... All right. So this is a portfolio. Make sure you guys can see it. These are first liens. And let's see here. I'm just going through here. All right. Now, these are all with a servicing company. They're all with Madison Management Servicing. It's a company out of Reno, Nevada, formerly New Jersey. So they got, basically, she's got some prior. She's got one that she really needs to sell. This one in Topeka, Kansas. And this is not a bad little deal. Okay. Then she's got some others, one in Freeport, Illinois, Renovo, Pennsylvania, Greenville, Texas. There's some smaller ones. So one is that she really needs to sell. Two, these she owned outright herself. And then three are notes that she has with an investor. Okay. Now let's go through, look at some of these things. Now, some of these are smaller balances. All right. So like I said, a couple of these would not be bad for you to take down for your own portfolio for a period of time, right? If you get some money to put to work, 30, 40, 50, 60 grand, you could probably pick up a couple of these pretty relatively easy because I've already got the collateral files sent over to me. The values on all of these are a lot higher based just on Zillow values alone are way high. So you don't have to pull BPOs on these things. Okay. So like, I'll give you an example. Let's look at this here. So like, let's map this, shall we? So these are all paying. There's one that's like 60 days behind, but it's a rolling 60. They've paid 12 months ahead on time. There we go. Let's see. So let's go here. And if you're on here live today with me today, I'll email you this list for you to take a look at. Okay. But I always like to start it off with looking at some stuff there because I get stuff in. And so I'll in true transparent. So we actually owned these notes years ago. Okay. We bought them as non-performing. And most of these are, well, there's a couple first liens. Some of these are contract for deeds. Okay. Come on. Okay, so there we go. Set options. And we're going to do group by, let's go loan balance and make map. So I bought them as non-performing contract for deeds or non-performing loans. So I bought them at like 30 cents on the dollar. Okay. Back in the day. And we got them on track. We serviced them all. What we did, we bought them in a bulk. These were part of like 200 notes we bought over 6 months. Okay. And we bought them at a big discount. We got them back on track, and we held them for cash flow for a period of time, right? Well, Catherine, who's the investor who owns these now, she wanted to buy some performing notes. And I said, well, I had some reperforming that I was willing to sell to her at a 15 plus yield. And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I sold, I don't know, I bought them at 30. I think I sold them at 65 cents of the dollar for her. So she was happy. We left plenty of meat in the bone. I wanted to make sure she got a good deal. She did. She's had them for a while, for 2 years, 3 years, something like that. She had investor money that was into it for 2 or 3 years, and now she needs to cash out one or two of her investors. Not big. I think she's needs 35 to 40 grand to sell. The others, if she can sell a couple of these and make that, she's great and holds on to the rest. If she could sell the whole thing, she sell the whole take two. Okay. Because she's other things. So what I did is I grouped them by the balances. And some of these are small balances. Small balances, you're not going to go use other people's money for something like that. Now, what would be good? Could you use your IRA to go buy a note for 3 grand or 2 grand or a grand and put it in your IRA for a period of time? Yes, you could. That would make sense for that. We will actually probably do that. If she closes on one, we'll probably buy 2 or 3, and I'll just slap it in my IRA at a decent price. Okay. So what I wanted to go through with you guys, let's go through this. So to give you a bit of an insight. So this is the one in Topeka. I think she would let this go for around 20 grand, if I remember correctly. So on this one is the address. You guys can see it. Monthly P&I payment on this is $463.51. It's a 7.5% interest rate. Loan balance is 28. It matures next due date 24. He's actually paid. This is the one that's 60 days, roughly 60, but paid more than. Okay, maturity date's in 2030, so it matures in 6 years. Okay. So the reason you pick this up at like 20K is that you're going to have it's offsetting. Like if it's a performing note, most performing notes you'd buy at 80 cents of the dollar if they had more than 15 years, right? So if you look at the numbers on this and say it's at 28,000, 28,534 times 0.8, that's at $22.8 thousand. You could probably pick this up for 20K. Okay. So if you look at this, it's $463 a month, and it matures in 7 years. So 463.51. That's the monthly payment. Let's subtract the $35 servicing costs that you pay on the high end for performing notes. So minus $35. So 428.51, and it now has 6 years and 2 months. Is that right? Maturity dates August. Technically, it's 2 months behind on that. So you'd add that 10 months. So basically, what is that? 6 years, put 4 months. So 6 times 12 is 72. So 76 months times 76. That's 32,566 in total received. All right, minus your 20 grand. That's 12,566 is your profit, net profit on that one. Okay. And if you divide that by what you paid for it, 20,000, that's technically a 62.8% gross for the whole, for the whole thing, but we need to annualize that now. So it's divided basically by 6. So divide that by 6 years, it's about a 10.4% cash and cash return, give or take a little bit. I'm a little off on that stuff, but it's about 10, 11% return for you. Okay. Not bad for a small little balance. Now, here's the thing. If Mr. Bradley here defaults, doesn't pay his mortgage, it's in Kansas, so you got about a year to foreclose. That's okay. But the value of this is over $70,000. Okay. So you bought it at 15 to 20 grand. You're in a pretty secure position. Can we agree to that? And there you go. Drop it in here. It's in a cul-de-sac. It is this. Is this right? Yep, that's the property right there. Yeah, a little tilted. So when I look at a property like this, when I look at the street view, what do you see right here? Throw through some comments out, everybody. What do you see? He's in pride of ownership, right? You see somebody whose landscape the property. Now, I don't know when this date of this picture was taken. You have to click over here on the top inside to take it to Google Maps to see what the date is of that map picture. So this is from May. So this is just 2 months ago. Okay. Yeah, exactly. There's a pickup. They work, care of the property. That's the whole thing. Is they've got some family over, right? But they've got definitely some pride of ownership, emotional equity. Got a flag out here. Look at all that. That's really nice, right? That's a good looking little property. Now, it's not the biggest property in the world. Okay. Is that actually may not be it? Hang on a second here. Too many maps open? Probably do. Is that 933? Nope, that's probably not. Hang on a second here. Let me go back to my spreadsheet. 933 East 34th Street. I was saying Virginia. Sometimes these maps can be a little goofy, everybody. It may not be showing the right. Come on, what is wrong with my thing? Okay. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's just so Virginia's Avenue must be now, or 34th Street must now be Topeka. Okay. Yeah, that's what it looked like a few years back. And I was just like, that can't be right. But yeah, so that's the thing to look at. I mean, think about that. You got basically a performing note. You got 6+ years of payments on this thing. You make about a 12 to 13% return, depending if you offer that. Now let's take that back here a little bit too. Remember what we talked about? Okay, so let's go back here. So let's say you wanted to offer, let's say, if we go back here to our spreadsheet. Payment on this is 430, 463, right? 463.51 minus $35 a month. So it's 428 times 76 payments, 32.5. So let's just say 28. We already said 28.20. So let's say you get paid, you pay 16 for it, paid 50 cents on the dollar. Minus 16,000. That's 16,566 divided by what you paid for it. That's 103% technically, and the payments come in and divide that by 6 years roughly. Divide by 6 years. That's a 17% yield, 17.25 yield based on those numbers. Okay. So, I mean, that's the thing. That could be a good little deal to get rocking along for you. Get your feet wet, get started. It's not the greatest loan. I mean, you're not going to get rich on that, but it's 436 a month. You know, buy it for yourself. They pay it down. You end up making, 32 and some change off it as it rolls in for you. Okay. Here's another one. This one's in Freeport, Illinois. Let's go back to this map here. Freeport's about an hour outside of Rockford. This one they owe 25, 8.7% interest rate, originated in 2015. It matures in 2036. So you've got 12 years in this one. They're only paying $274 a month. Value on this is about 70 grand on this property as well. It's a nice looking little white house, if I remember correctly. Take it in here. Here's the thing: when you're looking at property, you kind of want to be in town. You don't want to be out in the middle of the boonies for the most part, unless you're getting rock and rolling, unless you're familiar with that area and are comfortable with it. Okay, so let's do, where is our satellite view? There you go. Let's go and drop our little orange surfer guy, and there it is. 1501 East De Leon Street in Freeport. Now look at that. It's not bad. It's the same thing. What do you see with this photo? Click on that photo one more time. This photo was taken August of last year, so it's about a year old. Okay. Freeport's not the biggest of cities, and it's not Cook County. That's for sure. Yep. See, this just moving it that second changed the photo. This is September 2022. We move it down over here. New car, August of 2023. But the bicycle hasn't changed. That's that's a bicycle light. Okay. But that's got, what do you have? You've got some pride of ownership in that as well, right? Landscaping, roof looks decent, quiet little neighborhood. Somebody definitely pride of ownership wanting to stay in that house. Let's go over here and take a look here. Move our thing over here. Yeah, and that's from 2022, but it hasn't changed that much. Okay, so if we go back to that one, so 25,000. This one's got a smaller balance, or yeah, a little bit smaller balance, longer maturity. Let's see here. They're making what, 274 a month? Is that what we said? Their P&I payment, not their PITI. So their total payment is 454, but out of that is how much? Sorry. So they're making 90 plus 87. So let's take a look here. So 90.75 plus 183.92. So they're making a $275 a month payment, roughly. Okay. Minus your $35 for servicing. So $239.67. Now this thing doesn't mature to November 2036. So that is 12 years and 3 months. So that's 12 months times 12 years, 140. So times 147. So it's 35. 23 is the total income from that. So 35, 230. Let me write that down. Okay, same thing. Let's just say if you off, what's the balance? Was this 27 some change, right? 25. Okay, so let's say you offer 20 for it. So minus 20,000. That's 15,231. If you divide, that's profit, 15 off the total cash flow. Divide that by $20,000. That's 76.1, and then divide that by, was it 12 years? It's about it's about a 7% interest rate. Here's the thing. It is, yeah, it's because a lot of that's, it's gonna be, do I have the math right? I don't think I have my math right yet. 274. That's escrow. You don't count that. Yeah, it's about 7-8% return. So, it's okay, but it's a longer term, but it's also, I mean, it's not a bad yield for it if you have money making zero, right? You know what I mean? Some of these others here that have a little higher interest, like this one is at 12% interest. Let's look at this one. This one is in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, yeah, this one, I know this one. Let me pull this up. Oh, look at this. See, this was originally listed at some point. This is a good thing to look at when you're looking at addresses and you see it pop up a previous listing. What's this look like? Okay, so this is the listing from back in 2004, originally for 85. That doesn't make any sense. Saying it was 85 is only worth 41. That's an older listing. Let's see what it says here. 4-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,274 square feet. Does it not give any value? Is it listed right now? Okay, that's better. Oh no, that's not the right address. Okay, there's one thing I want you to look at. Make sure when you're looking at something's the right address. It's also very important. Sometimes these spreadsheets will have a mailing address instead of just the physical address. And don't do your due diligence off the mailing address. Do it off the physical address. Okay. Oh, that's because I mean it's a good comp. Let's see what the comp looks like. This is a little bit smaller, nicely rehabbed, 75,000. Okay, I can see that. Let's go back over to our spreadsheet here, which is kind of fun. Funny that I did that myself. So what do they owe in this one? They only owe like $3,800 in this one. This is a smaller one. 12%. Originated in 2008. It matures. They made a payment. The damn maturity date. Okay, so it's see, it matures in December, so it's 6 months from now. So something like that, their monthly payment's $425. So you got 6 months of that. And maybe you'll offer $1,000, to handle that servicing transfer and stuff like that. Yeah, that's about what I mean. This wouldn't be much more worth to do anything more than that. But hey, your IRA could be a quick little boost to it if you got nothing in there. Loan balance is 3811. Well, it's gonna take them a while. So these must have fallen behind. They may mature then, but it's probably longer than that. They probably have a different maturity date because they're behind. So at 3811, you pay $1,000. You're gonna get at least 3811 in 6 months to a year. That's a pretty good return. Paying $1,000. Why not get started with $1,000? Okay. Let's look at this one in Warren, Ohio. This one's 27,836 is the balance on this one. Their monthly P&I payment is 263. They're at 10. They mature in 2043. Okay. So yeah, so it was 30-year mortgage from 2013. So this one, let's look at that. Yeah, this still has a good 19 years of payments on it. Okay, so this would be something to think about. It's performing. Let's do this because this is the thing. I'd hold this one, buy if you get it at a discount. Let's see one for it. What did she say? She give me one little price. Give me 1 second. Let me look at something here. I think she gave me pricing on some of the stuff. Let's see, new offers. All right, I have that was that. Damn it, I can't find the damn. She gave me. There we go. Okay, so like on Washington Street, Warren, she needs to be at 23. Okay, so let's look at this one. 23. That's kind of, well, it may not be so bad performing. So 27,836. Let's look at this. 27,836 times 0.8. So yeah, she needs to be at about 80 cents on the dollar in that one. Okay, so you're going to basically be, you're going to basically get 263.27 minus 35 a month is 228 times 12 months. 2739 divided by 22. And it's about 12% cash and cash return for a couple of years. If you had an investor that had 6, wants to make 6, then you can still make 6 by giving him half, and you're keeping it. If it's that's $100 a month. Yeah, it's not that exciting, or $120 a month. It's a skinny deal, but it's still a deal. If you've got some money, it's not making anything. You know what I mean? So that's possibly on some of those. If you'd like to get a copy of that, I can send you the list and you can take a look at it. Just message me and I'll be glad to send the list over to you. You know, her motivation is she's got to sell the Topeka one for sure. These other ones are motivation 2. She owns outright the other 3. She's got some investors on and needs to get some stuff there. So there's some opportunity there for you. Milwaukee, Wisconsin one I think is a nicer one. That's at 37, 10%. It matures in 2036, so 12 years of that. It's a little higher balance. And this bar was behind. She fell behind for a little while. So I think it's actually closer to 14 years is the maturity on this one. But she's paying 501.74. That's a nice chunk of payments there. That one I think is probably the most desirable of the bunch besides Topeka. Okay. Cool. Let's take a short little break, everybody. Let's take a quick. I need to rest my voice for some reason. It's starting to give me issues. So let's just take a quick 5-minute break. Let me run down and grab something cool to drink, and you do the same, and we'll be right back. Okay. All right, so let's go through another tape of assets. I just thought it'd be easiest if we just downloaded the paper stack and take a look at stuff that would make sense for you and stuff that doesn't make sense for you. Just kind of go through a quick kind of evaluation of ones that maybe you want to follow through on and the ones that you don't want to make an offer on. Okay. Now, the biggest thing I like to ask is, what is your goal? Right? Is it to buy for cash flow? Is it buy non-performing that you can either foreclose or take the property back? Is it just looking for real estate in an area? What's your biggest goal as a note investor? Feel free to type it in the chat room. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Joe, John, Joe, Derek, everybody. Buy and hold. Now, buy and hold property. I'm talking about notes. Are you looking to buy and hold for cash flow? Lisa's looking for cash flow. We're talking as a bank. Remember, as a bank today, is it your goal to buy for cash flow, buy to then foreclose, buy and get it at a discount so you can get for cash flow, or you like stepping into cash flow immediately? It's a difference than just buying and hold for single family. That's a property owner. We're thinking like a bank today, John or Joe. There's no wrong answer. Just trying to get a feel for it. John is looking to yield for investors and take a piece for my cash flow. There you go. So he's buying, using other people's money to buy, give a decent return. So John, like what kind of return do you think your investors are going to be looking for? So Joe's looking basically to get it buy stuff at a discount, get it reperform and hold for cash flow. So about 8% plus. Okay, perfect. We're going to use that as an example. It's a great example. Okay. So let's go in here. Let me go in and pull this up to give you a bit of an example to where you guys can start looking at it. Okay. So we've already hit that. Is this it? I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So this is the most recent download straight off today. I did it with you guys. Taking a look here. So what I always like to do is try to get this where it's clean, so it makes it difficult. So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna hit the view. I'm gonna hit freeze panes, so the headers stay in place when I go up or down. I'm gonna turn this into a color. I'm gonna fill it with green. Actually, I'm gonna do that, but then I'm gonna change the font to white so that stands out. There we go. So now that looks a little bit better here. Okay, so we want to look just if you're looking for performing non-performing, we'll talk a little bit about both of this. Okay, so here's the thing. What's important is looking at the list date. Okay. Now, some of these say they've been on here for a little bit while now, right? May 30th. Some of these have been on longer than that. Okay. Maybe they've updated like May 16th, May 14th, May 15th. Some of these have been on there for long. They should be willing to. Now, you've got flexible, firm, or make an offer. Making the offer says they're probably motivated to move it. All right. Can we agree to that? But what's great is if they do have a firm price, let's take it, just be simple. So if they get a firm price, hit okay. Let's see what they say. Now, what I do like about what they do here is the spreadsheet kind of gives you some, we'll run some numbers and tell you roughly what the yield is, okay, of this note, okay? Well, we're looking, if you're looking for cash flow, you probably want to be on the performing side. I wouldn't buy from Revolve Capital. They always want too much for you. And okay, so oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to take that off. I was trying to play tricks on me. Okay. Performing stuff that you can step into cash flow immediately. So this answers kind of Lisa's look and John's look there for you too. So if you're looking for an 8% return to pay your investors, I think Lisa, you guys are doing the same thing. On the deal you just structured, Lisa, the one that was down in Florida, what was it, an 8% return as well? 6% return? All right, it was Texas. My apology. Yep. So proud of you, Lisa. Purchased our first note with OPM. Now I'm addicted. I'm addicted to love. I'm addicted to you in the church of high returns. I'm addicted to it. Yeah. Woo. Now, was this a it was a performing note or non-performing note? It was a performing note. Okay. What kind of yield is this thing spitting off to you? based off of, your, was it 16, 12, and you're giving your investor 8? Just shy of 12, that's fine. So you've got basically an infinite return on investment. Your investor is getting 8%, and you're getting 4% with none of your own money in the deal. Boo shakalaka. That's awesome. Very proud of you. Congratulations. On to the next one, right? Now you just need to do more of it and find more of them, right? So for that example, like, look at this here. This is kind of nice. Looking for more now. So where it's got it shows the interest rate, the unpaid principal balance, the list price, and the yield is based on the list price and the payment stream, depending on the term. Okay. So you could instantly look at some of these things, and let's just go through and resort it now. Custom sort by yield. And we're going to go largest to smallest. So there you go. Performing note, for sale. What's the yield say? NA, I don't know why. Oh, because it's at a 0% interest rate. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay. But look at this, 26%. Doesn't have to be huge. So, like, I'll give you an example. John, you're working with investors that probably going to have the good thing too, ladies and gentlemen, I would highly recommend, we'll talk more about this tomorrow. But when you're raising capital, you probably don't want to do anything less than 50 grand starting off with. Could you go to 25 for like friends and family? Yes. One investor per one note. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. Okay. So like with John, he got an investor, looks for 8%. Well, if you got these two, that's 38,000, technically 40 grand bringing in. Let's look at these. One's a contract for D, which is fine. They want 16. So basically, I'm sorry, that's the balance is 48. You can pick these up for 32, 33,000. It's a pretty nice little chunk. The yield is going to be weighted about a 26 to, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big. It's not that big a discount, but they're performing. Okay. Why is it 26.4? That doesn't make any sense. The interest from being so high. Is it a low short term? No, I hate their spreadsheets. Just do this. Come on. There we go. That's better. Okay. Things are spread out a little bit. So we know these are all first position. We can get rid of first position. Get rid of this damn column if it'll let me. Come on. Delete. So, but you could literally put something together just like that. There's our yields that were so high. Here we go. Find something that makes sense for you. So if we looked at anything over, 14%, it might be worthwhile. So the note type, performing, firm. There you go. Unpaid legal balance. They don't have their property values on here, so you get double check. Some of this stuff is going to be land, I bet you. And you would probably want to get rid of lands. Like, yeah, look at this stuff. So like this is to be decided, County Road, 294 acres, 151 acres, 197. So yeah, actually these guys are in Marlin, Texas. So it's a fast foreclosure, but they're basically owner financing this for a period of time. Yeah, see, a lot of these are land loans. That's the thing that aggravates me a little bit. I don't necessarily want to buy a land loan unless it's a property I don't mind end up owning. Okay. Let's go over and see if we can get rid of the land loans. There we go. Let's just focus on single family. Or actually sort of others. There you go. That brings it down differently. Now, as far as big as the databases these guys supposedly have, the fact that they only have about 20 actual property notes on here is not very exciting. That's the thing that's aggravating. You know what I mean? I know you recommend buying in a populated, but are you flexible notes where the notes very seasoned and performing? Good question, Lisa. So I like a populated area when you're starting out. Okay. So it depending on where you're at and how familiar. Like I'll give you an example. Like I grew up down in near Corpus Christi, Texas. Corpus Christi, 300,000 people, right? Across the bay, Ingleside, Texas, where I grew up, went to high school, only has like 10,000 people. That's a smaller area, right? Now I'm comfortable buying that area because I have friends, I have family down there. I actually still go down there every once in a while. I'm comfortable buying that area because I know it. Now, Lisa, you're in Michigan. I wouldn't recommend you buy down there if it's really seasoned and performing because it's just way out there. Now, I'm sorry, let me take that back. Non-performing, yes, I would not buy it. But if it is very seasoned and performing and there's a ton of equity, ton can be displaced differently, but you get what I'm saying? Like on that Topeka note that we looked at. It's worth 70. They only owe like 20 some change. Definitely, it's a ton of equity. It's more than 50% equity. If you had to foreclose on it, that's good. Now, the big thing in your due diligence is you still want to check days on market. If the days on market are longer than 6 months, you probably still don't want to do it. Now, if it's performing, then you take the risk of what the yield is, what you're buying it at, because it is rural. Okay. And then make the judge on it. I would basically, if it's in a rural area, make sure it's in a faster foreclosure state. That's what I would say. Okay. You got to be comfortable. I mean, there's places I've driven by. Like I'll give you an example. I'll give you a great example. We drove by. I went by this property. I drove out and looked at this one. This non-performing note. We pulled up, and it was a small balance loan, non-performing. Now, this is actually up in Derricks County neighborhood. Hang on, let me pull it up here. Here it is. Let me find it here. Let me just go your videos to videos totally. There we go. So this is a non-performing note. I don't think you can hear it. So it's out in the middle of nowhere, small town on the border of Ohio and Indiana. This is in Indiana. Does that property look pretty nice? Yeah, it's vacant actually. The property actually had been deeded from somebody on a quitclaim deed. They were non-performing. It's worth about 150. They only owed 25. Okay, I made an offer for 18 on it, knowing that there's all this equity, and that whatever that yield was, if I foreclosed, it'd still be decent yield if I sold it at the auction, right? Well, what happened is the borrowers or the family, whoever they deeded it to, it looks occupied, but it's just vacant. There's nobody living in it. Okay. And I knew it was vacant when they told me on the spreadsheet it was vacant. Okay. So I peeked over in it, and you still see a lot of that stuff in there. It's an older person who passed away. And so what happened is family members, it was deeded to the family member. So I went over and walked around it. Okay. Out middle of nowhere, small town. For me, if this is on about 5.5 acres too. You can't really tell. It butts up the farmland. It includes this big barn over here. And so there was not really the only negative on this asset was if the borrower reinstated, right? Well, if they reinstated at the 24, they were about 2 years behind. It would have been a good yield to me on the actual note. I'd hold it for a performing note and make about a 15% yield on the performer side. But they reinstated before I bought the note. So it was not a good yield to buy this and get a small monthly payment on this as a performing note. Now, if it was still non-performing, then it would have been a good deal for me. Yeah, look at the tractor. So this is considered rural. Can we agree to that? Like farmland. There's our east outside of Anderson, Indiana. Okay. For me, the way I priced my bid, if I took it back, great. If I sold at the auction, somebody outbid me, great. If they reinstated after I bought the note, decent return. But the fact that they reinstated it before I bought the note changed my ROI to single digits, and I didn't want to do that. Okay. So you just got to be careful. Like I just canceled the bid on this yesterday because of that. So does that answer your question? You really got to know and feel comfortable with it. Yes, if it's rural. No. Joe, they reinstated the loan. Okay. They're paying on time. So the yield, their monthly payment, they paid the 2 years or 3 years they were behind. So basically, all I'm getting is this flat monthly check. It's not a good return on my bid of 18 or 20, whatever we offered. Okay. Yeah, yuck. Yeah. Now it would have been good if they reinstated after I bought the note, but they literally just reinstated the loan like a week ago. Okay. So it just doesn't make any sense. So if they had reinstated, then okay, now I'm getting a nice, I'm getting 2 years of payments in the first year. I can hold it for a period of time. It's be a good yield. I'd offered them a little bit of a discount to pay me off. They probably would have paid me off because there's all this equity. The house is, the property itself is worth at least 100 on the 5 acres of wooded land. Okay. So anyway, that might be an example, and I was up in Indiana. I was in Indianapolis for a day, Anderson for half a day, and then drove out and looked at this property right before nightfall to get a feel for it. I was like, oh, I like this. I'm looking for land with acreage. Okay. That's the thing. You don't want to buy a note on something that you don't want to end up owning. That's another rule that I tell people, like, if you're comfortable owning the property at some point, great. I looked at a note down in the valley here in Texas, down in Mercedes, Texas, Mission, Texas, actually. And it was they owed, I don't know, 30 grand on it. The house was worth about 90. It was performing. They had a lot of equity. When I sent a person to drive by the property, it was a piece of shit. I did not want to own that. An elderly person lived in the property. I did not want to rehab that property from far away. Okay. And they obviously weren't taking it to the property. The property needed to be completely repainted on the outside. It had a wheelchair ramp. The grass was 3 feet tall. I didn't want to own that note. I didn't want to have to deal with that aspect of it being 7 hours away from me. Now, somebody said, well, why are you rehabbing a property in Anderson, Indiana? Well, I'm rehabbing a property because I have a team in Anderson, Indiana. I like Anderson, Indiana. The city's a pain in the ass to deal with, but other than that, I've got a good team. So you have to take a look at assets that make sense for you. Would I rehab property in Florida? Yeah, if I get it priced right, because I've got people in Florida I trust. But it also can't be, I'm not going to pay 80 cents on the dollar for notes with equity in Florida if they haven't started the foreclosure process, if they're not significantly through the foreclosure process, because we know how hurricanes work. We know insurance costs there, and we know that if stuff's been sitting vacant for a while, you've got to get it at a price that makes sense if you're going to be holding it for a period of time. So that's my biggest thing. If you're comfortable with the area, you like the asset's got some pride of ownership, definitely. If it's an ugly eyesore, ugly asset, no, don't buy a note you don't want to end up owning. That's like the number one rule I can tell you. The house got some pride of ownership, and we bought these 90 to 100 contract for Ds were lower valued assets, but every one of them looked nice. Every one of them looked decently. I would not mind owning that property. The ones that looked like trash, looked like crap, had hoarders on the outside, I said no to it and moved on. That's what I mean, but more so than anything else, is you got to really understand that model and be particular about what you're doing. Just because something looks good doesn't seem to make, like that one in Topeka, I'd buy that one. One in De Leon, I'd buy it because they're nice looking little houses. Okay. And they do have a ton of equity. That's what I would look at. Does it make sense for me to hold them for 5 years or 3 years in cash flow? Yeah, it makes sense for me for 3 years of cash flow. Okay. And then I can either sell them off to my investor in their IRAs or turn around, sell them off to somebody else if I can pick them up at 60, 70 cents on the dollar. That's the great thing about it. Okay. Or something else. Let me pull up another list here. Where is I just had it up to? Is this it? No. Here it is. Okay. So this is another tape. Let me go through and unfilter everything so you can see it. Oh, that's not the right one. That's an older tape. Sorry. All right, let me pull up a different list here. Hang on, everybody. Now, what we're starting to see now is you're actually, besides, owner occupied or non-owner occupied first liens that are 30-year mortgages or 15-year mortgages or contract for deeds, what we've actually started to see a lot of recently has been reverse mortgages. And what's a reverse mortgage? Well, a reverse mortgage, here we go, Q2 tape. And this is a tape that our one-on-one coaching students got access to. And we introduced them directly to the fund. And that we've got some folks that are closing deals off of this. And that's the beauty of our one-on-one coaching. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We love helping our students get stuff closed. Okay, so this is, all right, perfect. So this was a mixture of non-performing first and then some reverse mortgage. Now, reverse mortgage is it's a mortgage product where basically it wasn't credit based. It's based on the age of the borrower and then the property value. So basically it's like an annuity for your equity. So if you have equity and you're over 65, you want to cash in that equity, don't want to make mortgage payments, you can do a reverse mortgage. And based on, I'm not an underwriter for this, so that the lender will give you basically reverse annuitize the house where they're paying you either lump sum or monthly payments, and you don't make mortgage payments. I think he's going to take care of the taxes. But at the time of the death, then your estate, your heirs have the right to pay off the house to keep the house they want to, or they foreclose and now you have an REO. Now you're not going to get a borrower who's passed away start paying again. Can we agree to that, right? Yeah. The dead don't make payments. This is on ACH, okay? So let me pull up the spreadsheet here. Okay, so this tape, all right, so this one was 188 notes, okay? 108 notes, view, freeze panes. There we go. Now, how can you tell it's a reverse mortgage? When we get a spreadsheet and you see HECM loans, that's usually home equity loans, okay? Or you see that the monthly payment, the P&I payment's $1. They have to put $1 in there or something, okay? So a lot of these loans were in Florida. Then you also had some first liens on that were non-performing as well too, okay? So you really had kind of two tapes here. You had, here we go, 59 loans. Let me do this. We're going to split this up into two maps. Yeah, so let's go through the spreadsheet so you can see it's a little bit different here. So you had the master ID, which is the master loan number, servicing loan number, classification if it was a type of home equity, reverse mortgage, servicing, active, delinquent status. So it was active, they were working through it. The delinquent status too. They said active foreclosure doesn't mean it was in the foreclosure process. I found that out. We made bids based on these being in some of the foreclosure process, and when we got down to it, the attorney hadn't even started the foreclosure process. So you always got to double check that, okay? Servicing date, when the lender took it over, next due, P&I, taxes, some of those two. There's actually 12 different columns of what these other ones were for. Payment history, this is cut off April of this year. Deferred balance, current maturity date, foreclosure stats again, which is wrong. You'll see this in a pay string, okay? And what this means is usually the last 24 months of payments. All right, so zero payments. Usually you want to see 1, 1, 1, 2, but you see like this one here's a great example. So like 5 months behind, 6 months behind, 7 months behind, 8 months behind, 1 month behind. They made some payments and they fell 5 months behind. So it's really hit and miss on a lot of this. This guy's been behind for a long time. No payments, no payments. current, fell behind. Okay. Fell behind, no payments whatsoever, no payments whatsoever. Okay. So that's the kind of the string. You have the FICO score there, it's credit score. Here's what I'm talking about, the 12 months of payment history. You can see this sometimes is in here for us. So last 12 months, total payment count, how many payments they made in 12 months. Okay. So like you see, they made a payment, 13 months of payments on 1 month. They're trying to get caught back up. Borrower's name, co-borrower's first name and last name. Here's the thing to look at. Here's an avid thing for your due diligence. I don't buy mortgages with more than 2 borrowers. Occasionally, you'll see a mortgage where there's 2 couples that like buy a house. You'll see 2 parties come in and buy. I don't care if it's a different first name, different last name. It's 2 people. But what I'm talking about, if there's 4 borrowers on it, okay, that's a big no-no. Because here's the thing, that gives them basically 3 extra get out of jail cards when it comes to filing bankruptcy. So one couple could file bankruptcy if you start the foreclosure process. It delays it a while. You get the bankruptcy discharge. Boom, the other couple files bankruptcy to lay this out. Big issue. I had that happen on a note we bought in Miami a while back. There was 3 borrowers on it, and for some reason, the deed of the property was not in the same name as the mortgage. Is that right? No, sorry. The property was deeded differently than the 3 borrowers. One of the 2 is different. Well, how it was like that, I don't know, and why it was approved at closing that way, where the deed was in the individual's name versus the actual mortgage. That made it difficult because these 3 individuals, even though the LLC had a local address in Florida, these 3 people lived over in the Ukraine, supposedly. So trying to process serve 3 borrowers that live in the Ukraine during the Ukrainian-Russian war is not advisable. Can I tell you that? Okay. Trying to process serve somebody abroad is not the same type of way of trying to process serve somebody here. You get very little insight, very little activity. Don't get me wrong. We came out smelling like roses on that deal. We still made money. It was a pain in the ass. It was 2 years of a lot of wait and see. COVID kicked in. Foreclosures got delayed. It was just absolute pain in the ass. So never buy a mortgage where the borrower's name doesn't match up with either the deed when you're filing at the county. That's the biggest thing. Don't make it different, and then don't get more than 2 co-borrowers. Seriously, don't do that. Just it's a no-no. It's a no-go. Okay. Original loan amount, original lender. Sometimes you'll see that. Interest rate, P&I, property address, property county, property type, current occupancy is nice if there's a BK filing, BK case. There's property value, who did the property value, there's that kind of aspect for you. So this is the non-performing stuff. There we go. Let's do this. Property address, so you can see it. Some stuff in Florida. New York State has a bunch of stuff. Not really that exciting. Pennsylvania, some stuff in Texas. All right. And if we go back to the tape now, and then do the Florida notes. Yeah. The 59. That's better. These are all down in God's waiting room, Florida. All right. So now that we have both of these, all right. So there's the first one. There you go. Part of what I like about Batch.io is just posting a picture of the map. Here's a tape of 130 notes that I'm working on. All right. And then here's the reverse mortgage one, all down in Florida. There you go. Okay. And so you can see, oh, they got two different ones. This is based on, it's a property value or property type, single family condo, manufactured housing is a couple in the middle over there. Okay. So if we go back to this other one, like this one in San Antonio. This one we actually made an offer on. Kind of an ugly property. Yeah. What's this? No, it's not this one. It was this one back here. Yeah, this is right here. Now, I made a low ball offer on this one because it's in San Antonio. The property itself was worth quite a bit. If I go back to the spreadsheet, I like San Antonio. There you go, Lancaster. Fixed. So here's the thing. So the original amount was 30. You know, Diana Villarreal. We go back over here and look at, they had made payments in a while. Active foreclosure. They started this say February of last year. Why they haven't finished the foreclosure, I don't know. It's because of probate. It's a probate issue. The borrower's passed away. Now their interest rate's at 11.55%. Their legal balance on this thing is roughly 134. Okay. Corporate advance is 66 grand, negative 9 grand, and escrow that's from property taxes, accrued interest rate. So they've owed 134 on this property, right? Now, did I want to own this property for my own to move into? Hell no. Okay. But they give it a value. They gave it a value of now the bank, if they run BPOs, you kind of have to evaluate. So they gave it a value of 203. So I made an offer at 90, 80 or 90. It was accepted. And I was like, well, okay, if I sell this at the auction, take it to the auction, I can probably cash out of it at the auction. Somebody will probably buy this thing. If they don't, we got a value of something like that. I could turn it into a rental. It looks a little messy. It's in San Antonio. I've got crews. San Antonio is about an hour and a half south of me where this thing lives. Okay. So that's the thing on that one. I was like, okay, it's Bexar County, fast foreclosure process. And so the process is tied up in probate right now, delaying the foreclosure. So the borrower's passed away and the heirs are issues. I'm like, I don't necessarily want to buy if stuff's not dealt up in probate for the most part. Okay. Fine. If there's missing assignment of mortgage, I wouldn't buy that heir, but it's occupied. So people are living it basically for free right now. The fact they haven't got probate figured out in 2 years, that's the big aggravating thing. That's when I found that. I was like, no, we're not wasting our time with that. Okay. Let me go over here. See my bid all the way. My bid still might be in here. No, it's a different spreadsheet. Anyway, let's go over and look at something now. Well, I don't mind reverse mortgages. as long as I can get them at a price that makes sense. So like these are reversed. So let me give you an example here. Let's go. Let's see. We made an offer on a couple. West Palm Beach. I think this is one of them. Tuscaloosa Way. Yeah, actually, yeah, I've bought a lot actually in West Palm Beach over the years. Oh, yeah, it's one of these condos. Yeah, Tallapoosa Way. Yeah, it was one of these here. Not bad looking little house, right? So the issue with this is it's vacant. It's this one. Yep, it's this one back here. Now this photo, 727, looks like somebody's living in it, right? This photo is from February of this year. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, right? Let's go back here to our spreadsheet. Is that? I don't think that's the right address. See the map. You gotta be careful of the maps on some of stuff. Tuscaloosa, not Tuscaloosa. Yeah. There we go. That's the big thing. Okay. It's this property here. There we go. Now it would look pretty bad just from that, but it's actually this one right here. So it's not so bad looking little house. Yeah. All kind of common, pride of ownership. This is from February of this year. Same kind of design, right? Okay. West Palm Beach. This is basically, it's only 440 square foot. It says one bedroom, one bath. Kind of small aspect of, but the value on it Zillow is it's 250 roughly. Now this actually has a house in the back, a mother-in-law that didn't show up initially when we looked at it. So it's actually this house here and then the back garage and condo above it. So we got excited about this. We go back here to our numbers. So they valued it at, say vacant. They gave it a value of 170. Okay, 170 is fine. They owed more than that, obviously. They were upside down. Estimated legal balance is 249. Okay. So when it's upside down like that, they owe more than properties. I'm going to go off their value, 170, right? Okay. Yeah, it could be a very good rental, could be a little Airbnb. West Palm Beach, not bad. All right. Okay, so then if you look at that, so it's a 170, I'd offered 65% because if at 170,000 times 0.65, because remember, got to go through the foreclosure process. They say this foreclosure's in process. Well, it wasn't in process. Yeah, say this, yeah, this is reverse mortgage. So it's pre-foreclosure. So I hadn't started any legal on it. I got one mixed up there. So they hadn't started. So I know I got a 12-month process probably to foreclose. Okay. Well, at 65 cents the dollar of 170, that's 110. So it's about a $60,000 profit before foreclosure costs, money holding costs, and you know what's expensive as hell? Insurance, right? So if it takes me 10 grand to foreclose, I'm at 120. I know my insurance is probably going to be around 10 to 20 grand as well. So now I start getting penciled in. And then if I'm borrowing 130 grand and I'm paying somebody 8 to 10% interest rate, My margin, well, they came back and they wanted something, they wanted 80 cents of the dollar to the 170. I was like, I'm not paying, no, I'm not going to pay that. 65 is as high as I can go based on the stuff. If it was, now here's the thing, would I have paid that if they were near the foreclosure process? If they were 90 days away, if they've gotten a judgment date and a foreclosure date, yeah, I would have paid 80 cents of the dollar. I would have done that. Probably okay. I probably would have tried to get 70, 75. But what you have to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, is if there's equity, that's great. On this one, there's negative equity. If there was equity, if it was worth 249 and I only was owed 170, I'd have paid 80 cents of the dollar if it was near foreclosure, because then I would have basically gotten 20% at the foreclosure auction if it sold. If it didn't sell at the foreclosure auction, then I get a windfall in the equity that somebody didn't buy on. Does that make sense, everybody? You got to look at these things from two different glasses. Yes, you have to look at it as a property investor, but you have to look at it from a bank that you don't own it. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making when they come over to this is the realtors, the mortgage brokers, the fix and flippers, the landlords. They look at the value of the property and they start quoting ARV, ARV, ARV. I'm like, ARV doesn't exist. I'll give you a great example. We got, I'll share a deal right now. Antron and Fulton are working on a deal. It is in Maryland. They live in Maryland. I'm really excited what these guys are doing. These are two of my newer coaching students. And we found them one that's about 30 minutes from where they live. This one in Frederick. Okay. Let me go back to the map. Nice little house. Well, it's not, it's like a 3-story house. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Let's take it back. I don't want to mess with the map owner. Hang on here. Why is it acting all goofy on me here? I don't know what it's doing here. There we go. We're going to go over to Maryland. It's really the only one in Maryland. There it is, Frederick. Now it's a nice little, it's like a 3-story building. This is a reverse mortgage. Bar passed away. There we go. It's like one of a duplex. There we go. It's this building right here. It's right this half right here. Okay. And the great thing is when you looked at the map on this, you can see there's already notices that it's empty, right? Now, a lot of times with reverse mortgages, the banks will give you interior inspection reports. And we had some interior photos from over a year ago where the borrower was deceased. And you tell that it looks like the family members had come in and just gotten their stuff and left it. Now, it needs a little bit of work, a little TLC, obviously, some fresh coat paint. There's a window on the side over here that's open, I think. You know, the roof probably needs to be cleaned or at least painted there. Yeah, it's not so bad. But here's the numbers on. Let's go back to the numbers on this thing. So they're already in the foreclosure process. They got about 90 days left. 90 days to foreclose in Maryland. Okay. It's vacant. They figure the value is 485. Okay. $485, the legal balance on this one. $380, and they got it at $230. Okay. There's 150 grand between what they're paying for the note and what the legal balance of what they're going to foreclose on. Is anybody can contest that 381? No, there's no family to contest it. Okay. So they're buying it at 230. They foreclose in 90 days and it sells at auction for what they owe. Guess what? They just made 150 grand. You know, after their investors, I think they're talking to their investor, supposed to fund it at a 10% interest rate. So if they 230 at 10%, even to give them a year of interest as a prepayment penalty, just to guarantee, That's 23 grand. On a 230, that's 250, 253. That's still 120 grand, give or take a little bit for them. Not lifting a finger, not rehabbing a property. Yeah, they've driven out the property. Take a look at now. If they do not sell it, guess what? They rehab it, they clean it up. It's pretty much cosmetic cleanup inside. Fresh coat paint. It's all hardwood floors throughout it. Fresh coat of paint, fresh paint exterior, a little bit of rehab. Then they could sell it, turn around and sell it for what? 550, they think is what it is. That's what Antron says that the value is conservatively with a cleanup on it. They say 485 as is, but 550 or more if they clean it up. So that's a potential $200,000, 100 to 150, $200,000 profit for their first note deal. That's not bad. That's pretty exciting. I get excited about stuff like that, right? And they got another one. It's a little performer or a non-performer in Elkhart, Indiana. We'll probably make them 30, 40 grand. All right, it's worth 130. The borrower owes 128. They're picking up for like 80. It's going to take about 6 months to foreclose, 6 to 8 months to foreclose on that thing. It is occupied. It's in good shape. We've had people drive by it twice. It looks nice. They're going to have to evict and foreclose, but if they sell at the auction, guess what? They're going to make 30 grand on that one. If they don't sell at auction, they'll take it back, clean it out, and sell it, make 30 to 40 grand on it. Okay. Cha-ching is right. And that's what I love about this business is you can do so much great stuff. I love helping people accomplish things, getting deals done. That's part of what our coaching is all about, is really putting deals in front of you to close. I mean, yes, you can go out and find the deals you want yourself, and that's all fine and dandy. But one of the great things that we do is that we literally will provide deal flow and give you a list of tapes ahead of everybody else. You know, I see plenty of deals. I don't have to fight my students for deals because there's plenty enough to go around, right? My coaching students saw this list at the same time I got it. They made some offers. Then we opened it up to our WCN crew members after that with offers from our coaching students taking priority, and just excited about seeing students close deals, raising capital. They're raising capital from their own. So I think actually you're talking, John, you're going to talk to Fulton. You're talking to Fulton about this. So he's really excited about this deal. We spent some time with him last night. He's meeting with investors. Antron, his business partner, is a school teacher or a school administrator, is ready to be done with school teaching in the junior high level. That's the beauty about this business, is that if you want to move forward, if you want to make offers, great. And they're like, oh, we could rehab. They've got a rehab going on in St. Louis right now. I'm like, you guys don't want to rehab. If it can sell it, sell it. Why not make 100 grand and call it an even day versus trying to rehab it and list it and make more, but you also, those days on market's going to be affected. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to go buy a $300,000, $500,000 triplex or, 3-story house. It's not bad, and not a bad area of Frederick. I know Frederick, Maryland is very well from one of my buddies as well, who lives up in that neck of the woods. So Mike Fitzgerald, who's actually Lisa, Darlene. I don't know if you know Mike. Darlene knows Mike. They were part of CG at the same time as I was. I think he's still there too, or family or whatever. So some great opportunities there, ladies and gentlemen. Look, that's the thing. It's not every one of these is a deal. Okay. You're going to pick and choose in your state or in 2 or 3 of your states. Like if I was getting started brand new, all right, here's where I would look at. How did they find this deal? They found this deal because I gave them this freaking list. I had the asset manager at the fund reach out to me and say, hey, Scott, we've got 186 notes for sale. You've closed with us before through somebody else. Would you be interested in looking at these deals? I'm like, yes, I do. Do you mind if I send a few of my coaching students your way to buy? And they're like, yes, it would be great. So we helped them get some bids. We helped them with a due diligence. We sent somebody out that we knew. We sent Gene Chandler, actually, from Chandler Financial Group. He drove by the Elkhart, okay? Membership has its privileges. It sure does. Like Catherine, I'll give you an example. This other list of stuff we were looking at, Catherine, she's made over 6 figures. We helped her take down a couple deals, helped her make 150 grand on one deal down in Cutler Bay, Florida, on a note foreclosure rehab. Another high-rise condo deal. She made, 30 grand on that deal. She's made a bunch of money on some other notes that she's gone through. Look, we're here to help. There's plenty of money to be made. This is one of the greatest things that I love, ladies and gentlemen, is you get deals at a bigger discount. If it's not a deal, you kill it and move on. Okay? If the seller wants too much for their assets, you kill it and move on. The whole goal is not just to make one offer and get one offer accepted. The offers is to make 20, 30 offers and get 5, 10, 15 accepted. Okay. That's the beauty of this business, is focus on states that you can make things happen in and make multiple offers, because you never know where they're going to come back at. You have an idea sometimes, but you don't know what you're going to find in due diligence, in values, in condition of properties, where they're at in the legal. What does the collateral file look like? You know, what the servicing note is. The borrower's been a pain in the ass, tell you to go pound sand. Okay. But we'll help you make money. That's the biggest thing. If you're interested, we can talk more about that tomorrow. But I think we're at a good stopping point for day one, right where we're at right now. Tomorrow, give you a bit of an idea. We'll start at 9. We'll wrap up at 4:30 tomorrow for sure. One of the big things tomorrow we'll go through is more of the marketing side, how we're raising capital, how we find investors, how we make that happen, how we work smarter, not harder to raise capital, how you can make things, give somebody a great return and still make it a phenomenal, cash flow, chunks of change, depending on where you're focused at. I was going to say a minute ago, if you're getting started, pick 3 to 5 states. Okay. Now, if you live in California, I would not pick California as one of your states. But I live in Texas. Texas is not one of my top 5 states. Okay. If I see something in Texas, great, I'll make an offer on it. But I don't rely on it to be my sole only thing. If I can find something here that makes sense, great, I'll do it and go that route. But with it being a fast foreclosure state, I got to pay more most of the time. All right. So where are you going to see the most amount of deals? Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Missouri. Those are the ones that probably are going to make the most sense. You will see a lot of stuff in Florida, but Florida doesn't always make sense based on foreclosure time frame, insurance costs, and repair costs down there. Okay. It's hard to get insurance down in Florida right now. And I've loved God's Waiting Room. Bought a lot of stuff in Florida, but have really pulled back what we used to do. South Carolina, I would look at South Carolina. South Carolina is a 12-month foreclosure process, but if you can buy something that's occupied, get some emotional equity, hey, it can be a great return there for you as well. Plus, you get a lot of people out of Florida who are comfortable investing in South Carolina because it's closer. So they get a lot of private capital down in Florida, a lot of money looking to go to work in other places. So, I mean, if you live in Florida and you can understand it and you can find an insurance, it's okay, and you can get it cheaper enough. It's just there's still a gap between what non-performing sellers want to sell stuff at versus what they need to be at. You know what I mean? But we see that gap shrinking and going from there. If sellers can't sell assets at a price, guess what? They end up holding them, and they're going to have more legal costs. I will follow up with the bids that we cancel and say, hey, if you still own these, here's my offers. If you want to accept them in 90 days, I'm willing to move on. I'm willing to go on and close at these, but if you're not willing to accept my counters, I can't go up to what you do. Some of the best deals that we've done have taken, 90 to 120 days of negotiation back and forth. Okay. I'll give you an example. I had a hedge fund reach out to me a while back that had an 8-unit apartment complex in West Palm Beach. It was right behind the Boys and Girls Club in West Palm Beach. Actually, hang on a second. I bet you I can do this. Let me look here. I can find it for you. It was Club Court, Boys and Girls Club of West Palm Beach. Palm Beach County. Just down from the racetrack. Okay, here we go. This West Palm Beach National Guard Armory. There we go. Because this is right across the street too. There we go. Okay, yeah, this is looking right. Okay. Oh, where is it at? Anyway, it was an occupied 8-unit apartment complex. There was a first on it for First on it for 350 and a second mortgage for 100 grand. And they valued this at roughly around 400. Okay. Well, the first was, like I said, was at 330, and they wanted 330 for it. It's like, I'm not going to pay 330 for that. Not going to happen. Sorry, not going to do it. I'm not paying full par for a non-performer. And management wasn't so good on the thing. It wasn't the greatest of 8 units. It seemed a little shoddy in a rougher part there of West Palm Beach. Anyway, so I followed back up with a seller who had reached out to me from another seller I'd bought from. He said, "Oh, I was directed to call you from somebody I know." I'm like, "Oh, great. Who told you?" "Well, I can't tell you." I'm like, "Well, that's a bunch of BS." But anyway, so I followed up 30 days later. I said, "Hey, have you sold that 8 unit?" "Oh, no, I haven't sold it yet." I said, "Well, what do you want?" "Well, I'll take 300 for it." I was like, "I'm not paying 300 for a $330,000 asset." I said, "You haven't finished the foreclosure process." At that time, it was about 8 more months to foreclose. I said, "Not going to happen." So we'll wait another month. I called back, 270 wanted. No. Called back another month, 4 months later, like it was October 1st. No, it was November 1st when I called him. And he's like, "Well, I'll take 175. I was like, "I think I can make 175 work." So I called an investor of mine who's a realtor in San Antonio. She's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we funded the 175. We took it over in receivership. That's the great thing about commercial assets. You can, if you're not getting paid as the lender, you can take it over in receivership. So we took it over in receivership, leased it up. We had it fully occupied with new tenants in it, 7 out of 8 tenants in it, paying $800 a month rent on it for 8 months. We collected the rent. We kept the rent since we owned the note at that point, finished the foreclosure process, and we sold it. Opening bid was 330. We did the full payoff on it because it's worth 400 or more. We got 330 at the foreclosure auction. So we made 135 after expenses and 145. That's a nice day. Kathy made half of that. So she made what, 80 roughly, I guess, 60, 70 to 80 on her 200,000. Basically, she invested 175 and some change. Yeah, it was a good day for her. She was happier than a pig in slop. We never really owned the asset. We only owned the note, but we took control of it in the receivership. And that's a nice thing. You'll see more and more of these smaller asset classes like that you take a look at, but you just got to be aware. You've got to keep your nose to the grindstone. A lot of these commercial assets that you're seeing coming to foreclosure. Some of them are big, $100 million loans. You're not going to be buying $100 million loans, okay? But there are plenty of smaller ones. Like when the last crash, I bought a bunch of Dave Lindahl properties that went to foreclosure. He was the borrower on them. We bought the notes. We foreclosed on them and then turned around and sold them. Okay. Well, he lost a big chunk in the last recession. A lot of people lost. There's other things I don't like about Dave Lindahl I won't mention here. But what I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of people that were overpaying for assets, Grant Cardone being one of them, that they're having difficulties. They're going to have even more difficulties because of how they finance the properties or how they overpaid for the assets, thinking the condition was to keep going up. So it's a lot of opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. I encourage you to take action. I encourage you to learn as much as you can. We've covered a lot today, but the whole point of today is to find notes, find deals. It all starts with that. Okay. The mechanics of calculating yields and figuring stuff, that's not difficult to do. The raising capital side, we're going to spend a big chunk on that in the marketing side tomorrow. Those all go to getting deals sent to you so that you can be picky. You ain't got to just buy everything or make offers on everything in front of you. No. Focus, be selective, pick 3 to 5 states, start with 2 to 5. If I lived in Ohio, I would just buy in Ohio for the most part, or Michigan in those 2 states. If I lived in Indiana, like Derek, I'd buy in those 3 states. Okay. I almost moved to Florida years ago during my trip and stayed down in Florida for 6+ months. I came close to living down there for a long time. I was like, I could buy a lot in Florida. I like God's waiting room. I like the water. I like, but this Texas boy likes Texas too much. So anyway, guys, there's so much opportunity available. Part of what is today is all about just showing all the different ways to find note sellers. You don't have to rely on like Notes Direct. You don't have to rely on Paper Stack. You have to rely on JKP Holdings and the stuff that they have. Ugh, it's just ugly stuff. There are better stuff out there that's not picked over. It's not the bottom of the barrel stuff. You can get better deals direct from sources, if you will just market. All right. Yes, you have to do things differently no matter what you're at. If you're a financial advisor, a mortgage broker, a real estate agent, or a non-real estate investor, guess what? You got to market differently. Marketing for notes is different than what you've done before. And we're here to help if you're willing to be coachable and take things to the next level. So go out, take some action, enjoy your evening, guys. Refresh, come back. We get started at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Central Time. That's Austin time. Like I said, we'll run till about 4:30, 4:45 tomorrow night as well. So go have a great evening, and we'll see you all guys at the top. Thanks, everybody.